And it looks like we're live. Hey, everybody, this is Roberto Blake helping you create something awesome today. Welcome to a YouTube live stream. Today, we are going to be doing a little bit of a Photoshop thumbnail workshop here. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about some other things other than Photoshop, but I think none of you are strangers to the fact that I use Photoshop to do my YouTube thumbnails, my graphic design, and everything like that. So this is something that I'm really excited about. I know a lot of you are too, because a lot of you have told me that you struggle particularly with making, good thumbnails and things like that for your content. And, thumbnails ultimately are, for a lot of people, the barrier to success on YouTube because they can't get people to click on their videos. So today I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about some of the things you need to know in terms of really good thumbnail design. And so that's something that I'm really looking forward to here. And I really think that it's something that a lot of you will get some value from. So I'm just kind of showing you a little bit of my screen here in Photoshop. We're going to do some more of this, but let me see if I can get this any bigger. Let me see if I can get this any bigger for you just to take up more of the screen there. And my dog is sitting there making some noise in the background, so I apologize if you guys are hearing him mess around. Tugboat, get. He's under the desk now. Now he just wants attention. It's like I have to put him out of the room before these live streams because all he'll do is he knows that I'm going live. He knows I'm spending time with you guys, and then he'll just want all of my attention to himself. But Photoshop is my favorite software to do editing in, and there's a good reason for that. It's just because for me, I find it is the most robust tool overall. And so I'm going to show you guys some stuff in that, but you can apply a lot of what I'm going to talk about to other programs and things like GIMP, things like Affinity, and things of that nature. So don't be overly stressed about the fact that I just choose to use Photoshop. It's no big deal. One of the other things I am going to do is I'm going to just talk about some basic principles here. I've got this up on the screen, but I'm also going to show you guys and teach you some of the concepts around conceptual photography for your YouTube thumbnails so that your thumbnails can tell a story. Because what you'll notice about my thumbnails is a lot of what I try to do, even the thumbnail for this whole live stream workshop, I designed it intentionally in such a way as to convey the value proposition to you and to tell a story. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna let Tugboat out of the room here before he distracts me too much. Tugboat, come on. Come on. Sorry about that, everybody. Just had to let him go out there. But yeah, I mean, this is something that I think will be really helpful to a lot of you. And I do want to answer some of your questions. So question priorities will go to super chats. I will answer questions even without a super chat. I'll just get to the super chats first. The other thing I do want to bring up is just from a replay value standpoint. If you guys are watching the replay of this, there's going to be a ton of replay value, and we'll try to do the timestamps. But I'm going to talk to you about the software that is going to help you make the best overall YouTube thumbnails. We're going to talk about text on a thumbnail versus no text on a thumbnail and why it matters. I'm going to show you some data on thumbnail click-through rates, believe it or not. And we can do that as well. So I think that'll be really helpful for a lot of you. We're going to talk about face versus no face. We're going to talk about using photography instead of using design and graphics, because some of you want to make thumbnails that don't feel like they're clickbait. I'm going to talk about whether or not you should use a screenshot from your videos or not. I'm going to talk about photography, typography, color theory, big one, very important. Some basic design principles, show you a few Photoshop tricks that might help, and then talk to you about developing concepts and planning out your thumbnails and doing all kinds of stuff like A/B testing. But I think real quick, there's a couple of things that I should do so that you guys get a ton of value out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a tool that I talked about in my previous live stream, and it's going to show you guys, instead of me just telling you, some of the cool stuff that you can do when it comes to YouTube. And so this tool is something from Tubebuddy, which I'll get to here in a minute. But just a quick shout out to our two sponsors. First of all, big shout out to StreamYard. Make sure you're clicking StreamYard in the description down below, because if you're wondering how I'm doing this live stream on YouTube, Facebook, a Facebook group, LinkedIn, and Twitter all at the same time, it's because I use StreamYard, and it's totally free. You can click on the link down below, or you can go to robertoblake.com/go/StreamYard. They're sponsoring this live stream workshop so that we can give it to you guys for free and give you a deep dive into YouTube thumbnails. They're fantastic. I want to thank them for supporting me and the community. And like I said, they're the best free live streaming tool that I've ever used. I used to have like $700 software to do my live streams, and they've never been as good as just using StreamYard, which is free or affordable if you want to use any of their plans. So link down below. Please just check it out for free. Try it for yourself. Let me know what you think. But yeah, let me set up my screen here to show you something. I want to show you a tool that I use that I think would really help you. And I think this one is the screen I need. Yeah. All right. So this is Tubebuddy. This is another tool that is sponsoring the live stream here. I'm going to show you some data. The reason I'm going to show you this tool called Click Magnet is because of all the data that's going to give me about my YouTube thumbnails. So I'm going to teach you kind of a little bit of a auditing process that can be used for your thumbnails. So let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger on the screen for you so that you can get just a better sense of it here. Let me see if I can make that work for you, because I want you to be able to see this, and I want you to be able to like kind of understand. Is that big enough, guys? Is that working for you? Is that big enough? Yeah. What plan do you need to use this? I think you need either the Pro or the Legend plan to use the Click Magnets tool. So I want to show you that I have data that tells me about faces versus no faces and the click-through rate averages for my videos based on this. Now, this will use your own data, so it's not a hard and fast rule. I know a lot of you, the big problem is you're looking for a hard or fast rule on faces versus no faces of which one works better, but it's different for every YouTuber and it's different for every type of channel. And it also depends on the type of audience and goals that you have. Now, if you're a product reviewer, having the product in your thumbnail is going to be much more important than having the face in your thumbnail. Look at people like Marquez Brownlee. And it's not just for big tech channels like him, MKBHD, but it's for any tech channel. I would tell you that the thing that you're reviewing needs to take up like half of the thumbnail or more if you're reviewing a product, because we're there for the product. Now, your face can be in it, but this matters. Now, I don't have enough thumbnails without my face because, let's just be real, I have a personal brand. I'm doing informational content. I just don't have enough stuff without my face. And for me, for building my brand, it just doesn't make sense for me to not have my face in some things until or unless it does. But sometimes I'll try it either way. So for me, and wanting to be recognized as a public figure just to build a connection and relationship with my audience and humanize my brand, it makes sense for me to have a face in my thumbnail. But you should at least try alternatives, because when I did this with just putting the YouTube play button, I got a lot of new viewers who didn't know me, and it helped a lot. Now, with gaming and entertainment, it depends, but I would say the game is more important to the audience than you are. But that's also just me. I watch the Rad Brad a lot. He's the first gaming channel I probably ever watched on YouTube for gameplay tutorials. And so I would say, the game or interesting aspect of the game is more important. But that doesn't mean you can't ever use a face in gaming thumbnails, because look at Bijou Mike. Bijou Mike is somebody that came up from this community when he had maybe 2,000 subscribers. He's at like over 2 million, and he was a part of this community. And one of the success stories from the Awesome Squad. He and I did an interview when he was almost at 1 million subscribers here on the channel talking about gaming channels. So, if you want to reference that interview, it's an oldie but goodie, but he wasn't even at 2 million at the time. And he had just like really started to get traction that year. So if you're a gamer, you should definitely watch the video I did with Bijou Mike here on the channel where he talks about his rise. Because again, that was when he was almost at 1 million. He's at like almost 3 million now. So I think that's still relevant information because it tells you how he came up from nothing. Now, if you're going to use a face, something I want to bring up, and I'm going to bring my face here. It's like, how people do the YouTube face? Like the YouTube face like that doesn't necessarily work for me. Okay. I looked at the data, and this has facial recognition data, which you could argue is almost creepy, but it's really helpful. And what happened is apparently when there's more than one face, whether it's me or the YouTube logo as a face or another person, that actually does really well for me and better than when it's just my face. So I'm trying to find ways to use that if I'm doing like a YouTube related topic. But I found that apparently when I'm calm and stoic, more of you click than when I'm happy or surprised. And it's a significant amount. I'm going to try some thumbnails and some topics where my face might be angry. We don't have any where it's matched me for being angry, but we do have some where it's matched me for being stressed. So the thing is, you guys kind of respond to me being either calm or stoic more. And you guys relate to me being happy or surprised less, apparently, in terms of click-through rates. And and again, that's just my data. I'm not saying don't ever do the surprised YouTube face, because again, the surprised YouTube face does seem to work sometimes, but also Roberto being stern or angry. If you're stern or angry about something, then I might be more relatable. Like, oh, YouTube changed a policy. So me being, you'll click on that. Okay, YouTube changed a policy, and Roberto's like, it's like, okay, Roberto's reaction matches my reaction, so it makes more sense, right? YouTube changed a policy, and Roberto's thumbnail is, guess what? Probably matches your own reaction, right? YouTube did something like out of the blue, and my reaction is, you're gonna click because you want to know, all right, is it good or bad? Because that's somewhat neutral. It's like, I don't know how to feel. It's conflicted. So like you might feel the same. So that's just something I wanted to bring up. So we have a super chat here. I'm trying to bring it up on the screen because I can do that with StreamYard. We have a couple of them. Let's see. Brendan Sparks says, hey, Roberto, love feedback on my thumbnails. Any tips or suggestions on my channel? Also in the YouTube advice niche. Brendan, I think I've seen your stuff before. I might check it out if we have time. Dignity Exploring Human Rights in Daily Life says, please critique my thumbnails. Lately, I've been drawing colors from the thumbnail picture to harmonize the overall look. We might be able to do that. I might be able to peek at a couple of thumbnails. It probably is easier if someone sends me a JPEG over on my Twitter, and I might be able to bring that up and bring it into Photoshop and analyze it. But that might be the easiest way to do it for me right now, without crashing anything, and also to be able to vet these, because I would want to look at the thumbnails before I put them on screen, just in case somebody's trying to do something unsavory, so I need a way to vet. But Adam has a question. Adam's Exploit says, Roberto, question, how do we determine the proper color combinations to attract clicks on YouTube? Funny you mentioned this, Adam. I have an interesting hack on color theory that I'll tell you guys in more detail later in the stream, but I'll tell you an easy trick. Go look at the color combinations of sports teams, because the sports teams already spent hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in research for color theory. And so you don't have to be a designer like me, and you don't have to go to college and learn graphic design or Gestalt like me. You could literally just look at the color combinations for the most popular sports teams in the world, and that would be a good way to figure out what colors to pair to each other. So you could literally, instead of having to learn color theory and look at a color wheel like me, you could literally just look at sports teams and then say, okay, I'm going to take the color palette from that sports team, and that is going to be attractive. Yeah, so that's just a shortcut. Malevolent Elephant, $20 for the collection plate, Pastor Blake. Thanks, appreciate it. So going back to this, what I would recommend for a lot of you is to do something I do that I'm going to show you here in a bit, is take a lot of photos. Take a lot of photos and then use the emotional spectrum here. Neutral, disgusted, confused, angry, calm, surprised, sad, happy. Use the emotional spectrum and then like make different faces that you could use in thumbnails no matter what, and pose. And the thing is, I like, some of you worry a lot about like what you're going to wear in your thumbnails or on camera and it matching. I found that your clothes needing to match between the thumbnail and the video don't matter. People don't really care that much. But if you're that worried about it, I would tell all of you to wear your own merch and literally wear your own merch in every thumbnail and in your YouTube videos, and to basically brand and monetize around your own merch and save your entire expense on wardrobe. And then in your taxes, and this is not legal advice, I'm not a certified tax professional, in your taxes, if literally all your clothes basically become, you're buying a sweater and a hoodie and the rest of it is just your own merchandise, you get some nice tax write-offs because the merchandise is part of the advertising budget and it's the only clothes you wear. It's like, you know, for as much money as I make, all I do is buy my own YouTube merch, or I buy other YouTubers merch, and then I get it as a tax write-off as part of wardrobe expenses and part of my props and part of my advertising and marketing budget. So I just literally let my entire wardrobe be dictated by YouTube merch and claiming it on my taxes. Like, and again, that's just my hack. It's not legal advice, so it's not tax advice, but I just like, that's a way of me being ridiculously frugal. What I like to call frugal AF is I only spend money on things that basically are tax write-offs at this point. Everything's a tax write-off. I just live that life. It's like, great, how do I spend this money in such a way where I give less of it to the government? That's another topic for another time. I have a video coming out about YouTube taxes. Topic for another time. But yeah, emotions draw people in. The other thing is with the photography, you have long shots, medium shots, and close-up shots. Now, in looking at this, apparently for me, close-ups don't do nearly as well. You guys don't click on, you know, massive close-ups of this face that much, but you do appreciate medium shots where it's like head and shoulders and where I can do a pose that makes sense and tells a story. Long shots don't work nearly as well, but sometimes they do if the body language tells a story. The medium shots are the sweet spot for me. Your mileage may vary on this based on what type of storyteller you are and whether you need text in your thumbnails for them to work. Now, because I'm an information channel, I need text sometimes, and a news channel might need text sometimes. So text is another opportunity to play off of a title. So instead of repeating a title, I like to use 2 or 3 word combinations that are strong and impactful and help tell the story. Sometimes it'll be more, but you know, you can see your own click-through rates by using this. And again, this is with Tubebuddy. Go to tubebuddy.com/awesome, link down below. Get the free version, install Tubebuddy, try it out, or get a paid version. I think right now also, if you go and you install and you do Tubebuddy for free, I think right now, or maybe in a, I think it's right now, you can try out any of the plans for free, but just go to tubebuddy.com/awesome. And if you want a discount, use Roberto's Buddy and get 20% off. Thanks to Tubebuddy for sponsoring this stream and for this great tool. But this really helps. Like just seeing this helped me make decisions about my thumbnail photography and my options and what to do more of. And it had really good results for me. It helped with a video that I did that got over 100,000 views because I was able to just like absolutely dominate with the thumbnail. Now, text versus no text. This is a big deal for a lot of you. It depends, but I'm finding it depends on the concepts. Now, obviously, I have more thumbnails that use text, and versus some that don't. Your mileage may vary on this, but a lack of text sometimes makes your stuff more accessible to a broader audience. That may have mixed results though, because sometimes with the text, you can use trigger words that really activate people. Like again, the not paying creators one with the YouTube policy change, that was a big deal. I don't think that thumbnail would have done nearly as well if I didn't have the 3 words in the thumbnail, not paying creators, in big bold letters. I think too late to start really helped the current video that I have out about whether it's too late to start a YouTube channel. So sometimes words and titles can make a big difference. And then this tool also tells you which words have contributed the most to a higher click-through rate. I think it's no shock to anybody that money and passive income and best and whatever year it is helped my thumbnails tremendously, probably more than anything else. So I think that's no shock to anybody. So again, the element expector tool in Tubebuddy is a really good way to better understand your thumbnails. I also, what was I going to show you guys? I think I was going to show you the click-through rates and stuff and data on like a video like this. Now this video has 100,000 views, and I attribute a lot of that to both the timing, the topic, and the thumbnail. And it got a higher than what my normal click-through rate would normally be. The first day out, it got close to a 10% click-through rate, not normal for me. And then it trickled down, and it has its peaks and valleys on that. It's got nearly 1 million impressions. So again, this did really well for me. You can see that this did very strongly in the algorithm when we look at the reach funnel. So just a really good video and a strong thumbnail overall. But we need that in order to get clicks. We need those click-through rates to help us out. And thumbnail design, topic, and timing play a role there. If I show you this on like other videos, I want to find a video that I feel like really strongly about that is not necessarily YouTube. I think this one with the TikTok ban is a good example. The initial click-through rate on this was really high, and then it trickles off because it's a news topic. And so you can see that can make an initial difference in views. So that just gives you kind of some context to how important the thumbnail is to getting the click, getting a higher click-through rate, and things like that. So yeah, I thought it was important to share that with you. Something else I'm going to show you before we get back into Photoshop is I just want to show you like how many crazy poses and thumbnails like I might have to do in order to like get a good thumbnail. Like I have so many thumbnail photo options. I do these photo shoots in my studio in the basement, which you don't have to have that. You can just use a white wall in your house, or you can just get very good at cutting yourself out in Photoshop. But I like to use this background in my professional lighting because of my background in photography. But even just with the photography alone, without all the other fancy things I do, the photography gives me a strong set of options when it comes to my thumbnails. And the thing is, you can do this with product photography too. It's not just for selfies. For those of you who don't, for those of you who are more, let me see if I can find a good example here. For those of you who are doing product-based stuff, for example, if you look at like the flat lays here of like iPhone stuff, this, like just being able to do powerful photography would make a big difference for you if you are capable of doing that. So I do, professional photography, and I can take these kind of shots of gear and products and things like that. And I take a lot of options. I see how things look. I see what I would like. And I double dip on using some of this for my Instagram. Some of this will be thumbnails for my gear channel that I'm working on. But you can see, for those of you, because not everyone will do things where they'll put their face in it or put their body in it. But like you can see how photography can be just as powerful as anything else. You don't need to be a graphic designer. You don't need any of that. You could just make really good photos and use those as strong thumbnails and convey what you need to. I mean, like these top down ones, this is like a really good minimalism like thumbnail. So it's just an idea for you. You know, and I think that it's just really good context for some of you, because again, I know not everyone will be good at Photoshop or design or anything like that. So, you know, it's just how it is. Let me see. I think I missed the super chat here. There was a super chat. Here it is. Learning and technology with Frank. Thank you for all your help. My channel is getting traction, so all advice is being used and appreciated. Thank you, Frank. And again, I am taking questions. I am looking at your questions in the chat. Now, again, some of you, I know you can't afford Tubebuddy to analyze your thumbnails, so we're going to have to use principles and best practices, and we're going to have to use, you know, our best guess and common sense. And some of these tools are new. I didn't always have these tools. I had to use my own best common sense. I had to use the YouTube analytics. So again, if you don't have Tubebuddy or you can't invest in it, it's fine. I would say use the free version for a lot of you, but I do think that these tools can really help you and you'd get more out of your channel. So if your channel's monetized, I believe in investing in these, even if you're a small channel. As long as you have monetization activated, I would reinvest the money from your YouTube channel. I have a whole thesis of that I could talk about. Probably, maybe, do you guys want me to do a stream that is exactly and only about the business of YouTube and talk about the business of YouTube? Because another day I could literally just do a stream that's nothing but business of YouTube. But what I will say is, and we'll get into some more thumbnail stuff here because I want to show you some of this in Photoshop. But what I will say is this. I'll say that when it comes to YouTube, if you're a small channel, and I know that you might be trying to do YouTube because you want extra money and you're financially hurting already, but the best thing you could do if your goal is to eventually be a full-time content creator so that you can do something you like for a living, if that was your goal, and it's not for everybody. Some people, this is a side hustle or a hobby, and it should be. Not everyone's cut out to be a full-time YouTuber or a full-time creator or a full-time entrepreneur or self-employed. Not everyone's cut out for that. I do think more people can do it than not, believe, you know, but I'm optimistic. But here's what I'll say. Investing every dime you make that's extra money back into your craft is typically a very good idea. It might feel financially uncomfortable if you were hoping to use that extra money to change something immediately in your life that you don't like. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I am saying that long term, if you wanted to get the most mileage out of your career as a content creator, one of the best things you could do for your career would be to take any money you make on YouTube and then to put it back into tools and resources that you can use to grow your channel, get better at a craft, get faster, or have materials that also translate over to like a freelance career. Because if you get a better camera, you can, you know, do photography and video on the weekends. You could even do videos for a company on the weekends. If you get a faster computer, you can edit for another YouTuber and make money. You can edit for a business and make money. You could do design work for a business. And you can make money if you have better tools. Like if you literally have the ability to invest in the means of production and doing it better, faster, higher quality, then that would help you. If you can buy software and tools that you can use to make money, that would help you. And that's kind of like the direction I took. Even when I was an employee, I took all of my side hustle money or pinched penny from my paycheck to buy the same tools I had at the job, so that when I leave the job, whether I quit or they fired me, I could have, and ultimately it was a quit or fire me or I quit. Like if you do that like I did, it means that no one can take your skills. And if you have the tools for your trade, no one can truly take your trade away from you. All they can take from you is your job. They can't take your skills. They can't take your knowledge. And if you own your own tools, they really can't take your trade. So like, if you want control, I'm all for investing back into yourself. And I would say buying hardware and software is one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because it gave me the ability to keep making money no matter what. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'll talk about that in a business of YouTube Q&A if you guys want one of those at some point. But Yeah. Crescent Gaming says, Roberto, one of my recent uploads has been hovering between 12% and 20% CTR, my best by far. That is amazing, and that's actually really helpful if you want to get a lot of views. So improving CTR. So let's look at Photoshop real quick, and let me see if I can like help you guys understand thumbnails of mine and my my principles around thumbnails that work. Let me just bring that up here. All right. So let's look at, like, these are upcoming thumbnails that I'm for videos that I have that'll be releasing soon. You know, an export settings one will be coming out probably this week. Five best tools for video editing. Like, this is a whole series of videos I have planned over the course of the next 6 weeks or so. And you can see that I designed them to be consistent and a theme, especially since when I funnel people into a playlist of videos, or they see a playlist of videos on my channel, there will be consistency around this, okay? Let's look at the thumbnail for today's workshop. The thumbnail for today's workshop. Do you know why I did this thumbnail this way? I'd love your ideas about why in the chat here, but I'll just tell you. By putting the YouTube play button here, I immediately knew that people would understand that this is about YouTube. And if you're a YouTube content creator, you recognize this big red play button. It's undeniable about what that is. And then for most of us, we are familiar with Photoshop and Adobe as a brand, and we know what that logo is. But if you don't, you at least for sure know this YouTube logo. And the red dot generally lets you know that this is going to be live, or this was a live video. So because it's just what we associate as content creators with record. So a lot of this relied on me knowing what my audience and what content creators, my desired audience, not just my subscribers, but my desired audience. And this is the important thing. You are not always making YouTube videos or YouTube thumbnails, for that fact of the matter, for your subscribers. Your audience is your desired audience, the viewer, your ideal viewer. And I want you to keep that in mind, because it's really important to differentiate that and realize that it's like, you're not always doing things for your subscribers. Number one, YouTube doesn't show all of your content to subscribers. It doesn't show it to everyone who has notifications on. We all know that. Are we all just going to agree that that's true? That YouTube does not show your video to all of your subscribers, so we could all forget about view to subscriber ratios. Are we all in agreement there? Just like hashtag yes sir in the chat, you know, just hashtag yes sir in the chat if we're all kind of agreed that view to subscriber ratios are not relevant, because we all agree that YouTube doesn't show all of your content to all your subscribers or everyone who hit notifications anyway. So why would view to subscriber ratios matter? So that's just a starting point there. So since I know that, my desire and my goal here is that if there's somebody who's interested in YouTube and in YouTube thumbnail design, that they will see this and then they will decide to click on it. And what I did was I designed this with some YouTube tropes. The YouTube tropes that I used are the fact that red dot, oh, this was a live video, or we're talking about recording. Oh, red dot, that's recording. YouTubers know that. They know that from being on camera, right? Another trope is the whole white outline, black drop shadow standing out as far as depth. That's depth. Depth is a design concept, but it's also something that YouTubers are familiar with us communicating depth by having a white outline with ourselves cut out from the background and a drop shadow behind us standing off the background. So that has very much become a YouTube staple. All right. I put thumbnails down here, even though I know it's going to slightly bleed into the corner right here where there's going to be a YouTube timestamp, but you're still going to be able to read thumbnails. I made it so big as to take up the entire bottom of the thumbnail and the screen, so I know it would still be understood and legible, and the title will also help me there, and so will everything in the background. And then this background was a hell of a lot more work than you might think it is to make, but I basically just took like 40 of my thumbnails, and instead of using doing something smart, like using some kind of tiling tool or some plugin, I just like drop them in and manually size them like a moron, because I just sometimes am impatient and I'll do it the hard way instead of the smart way, and I'll just do it. But no big deal. So I did that, and I made that grid behind me to just kind of even to illustrate the point. But I want to show you something in my layers. And I know that this is tiny and you can't like super see it well, but I did something that's called, I used a multiply blend mode layer, which is basically the saying that I made it a transparent layer. I set it to about 45%. And you can see if I take that away, yes, those things get brighter, but they overpower and they make this too cluttered. So I needed that to de-emphasize it. So those things are there, but it makes them much, much more subtle. It makes them much more subtle. So you see how that subtlety makes the thumbnail better. And if I weren't, savvy, I would just have this very cluttered thumbnail. It was a good idea in concept, but would have been bad in execution. So that's why I did that. The other thing with outlining these two icons and putting a drop shadow behind it, again, it creates more separation, it creates more depth, and it makes them easier to understand. The other thing is that using these icons give me a little bit of social proof. Adobe and Photoshop are a recognized brand, so social proof. The YouTube logo, social proof. Holding a DSLR camera in my hand, even though you can't entirely see that's a Sony, you can see that's a fancy enough camera. That gives me a little bit of social proof, because in talking about thumbnails, I'm also communicating that I am a photographer. So me being there with my eyes open and my mouth open, that's a YouTube gimmick. So it kind of makes sense to someone watching this to say, oh, yep, that's a YouTuber thumbnail, all right. But then I'm adding credibility by having a camera in my hand, because there's a subtlety there of, well, okay, photography. And then I'm sharp. It's a good photo. It's like, okay, there's something to this. So I'm using these things to kind of establish a little bit of credibility and authority there. So I hope that makes sense for you. I definitely want to get to a couple of questions here and some comments, and then just again, keep putting your questions in, keep super chatting. I'm going to try and get to everything that I can while teaching you guys this. Later, I'm hoping either myself or somebody here in Awesome Squad can go back and timestamp this to make it just the most helpful to anyone watching the replay. But Nathan has a question. Roberto, I'm noticing a trend for the clickbait to be in the thumbnail and not the title. So I'm not entirely sure what you mean, Nathan, because when we say clickbait, are we talking about something deceptive, or are we talking about something that just emotionally is triggering? So we have to define what clickbait is. Now, some people are going to the school of, oh, well, there's good clickbait and then there's bad clickbait. But the thing is, we just aren't all agreeing on what clickbait is. And that makes it hard to have a realistic conversation about what to expect and what is working, what's appropriate, what's valid, and whether something's right or wrong. Now, with that in mind, I want to show you a concept for what will probably and hopefully be one of the most successful videos I drop this year. I want to show you guys this. This thumbnail design that I'm working on is for the 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time in YouTube. Now, I want some feedback from you guys in the chat on this. And again, this isn't to stroke my ego or to tell me how awesome of a designer I am, but I want your feedback, on this thumbnail. Is this a thumbnail that you guys would click? So just put in the chat, put click or put no click. Put click or no click in the chat to let me know if you would click on this thumbnail if you were trying to get to the 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours in YouTube. So just put click or no click. And if you want to add your reason why, please add your reason why down below. because I want to explain why I'm doing this thumbnail the way I am, and I want to explain some things that make you want to click on it. And for those of you who are putting no click, please put in the chat why you wouldn't click on it. Explain what about this thumbnail would make you not click on it if you were trying to get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. Explain to me exactly why you wouldn't click on that thumbnail, because it's going to help everybody in the chat to understand what's making you resistant. In the meantime, Swift Dreamer says, Roberto, any tips on improving CTR for music producer channels selling beats to artists? How can I increase that credibility you speak of as a music producer on YouTube? I'm going to address and answer that here in a bit, because believe it or not, I actually am working on a music channel. I also have a couple of clients with music channels, so I'll tell you what we're working on with regard to that here in a bit. GKH, Roberto, what's your take on Canva thumbnail software? Canva can be good. It can be limiting. It can be good. You almost, in theory, can reproduce a lot of what I do if you were to use Canva, but not all of it. You can get pretty far, but there are some things you can really only accomplish with like a Photoshop, a Photopea, Affinity Designer, or something like that. But Canva is a really good place for beginners to start, and I have nothing against it. I just often find it too limiting. So again, I'm looking at it. A lot of you are saying you'd click on it. Some of you are saying no click, but the people who said no click, I need an explanation. Dimmy is saying you need more depth between you and the background. Maybe. So let's see if there's any explanations from the people who said why they wouldn't click. It's great. Do you need to add why this is important monetization? The title is going to explain the monetization piece, but if you're trying to specifically get monetized, then you understand what 1,000 subs and 4,000 hours is. So it's really only speaking to an audience like that. Roberto, you missed a small super chat question from Believing in the Magic. Believing in the Magic, can you repost your question? You don't have to super chat again, just repost your question so I can try and grab it. Super Novel says, like if it had something like in 3 steps or something, it's more actionable. It'd probably make you click. The title will probably cover the thing that you're hoping for, but the thumbnail there is, you know, kind of makes me not take it seriously, but I understand on YouTube things need to pop. So that's interesting that you says that it makes you not take it seriously, because I would think the fact that somebody with a silver play button in the thumbnail with what's clearly not a fake silver play button and is a photo would override the whole point of not taking it seriously, because, you know, the social proof and credibility is built in there. Tommy says, the happy face makes it look sensationalized and easy versus how hard the goal is for someone. It doesn't set it apart from the other thumbnails about this topic. So the facial expression alone does it for you, but I would disagree, Tommy, just on the, and again, but it's up to you. You may not click on that, or you're saying you may not click on it for that reason. But what does set it apart from every other thumbnail in that niche, is the difference that I show you clearly, which you would never know on the YouTube homepage or in search. You'd never know that I have over 100,000 subscribers. You don't know on the YouTube homepage, YouTube search, or on the recommendations how many subscribers, because the subscriber count is not shown, which means that it could be somebody, and there's nothing wrong, by the way, with someone with 1,000, 5,000, or 10,000 subscribers telling you how to get monetized on YouTube. However, somebody that has a lot more subscribers when it comes to monetization might have a lot more insight. And so that's what would stand out and be a credibility difference. And that's just my point of view here, because I'm explaining something I did. Social proof is a means of facilitating a click, because the standout in social proof is an added layer of credibility that someone else may not have. There are a limited number of people who have silver play buttons in YouTube. In fact, Most of the YouTube coaches don't actually have 100,000 subscribers at this point. It's just a handful of us. I'm friends with the majority of them. And I'm friends with a lot of the people who are YouTube coaches who have less than 100,000 subscribers. And they're good at what they do. And some of them specialize. So some of them are extraordinarily smart about a specific aspect or area of YouTube or a niche or something like that. So again, in my case, I use the silver play button because I just am making it overly obvious that I have experience, at least compared to the person that is going to watch the video. Brandon says the reason for the no click is the background of multiple YouTube icons. The clock is also not high enough quality for me to be interested. Feels lower quality to me. I get that, but if I look at the YouTube search page and I showed you, which I could do, I guess I could do that. If I showed you everything that comes up for 4,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subs, you know, I'm probably have the better overall thumbnail. Now, again, I'm not claiming this is a perfect thumbnail, but you'll see that more people will click it than not click it, even if you look at the chat. And again, there is a point in terms of the design. You know, and again, I'm using some psychology here. So the thing is, it may not work for everybody, but no thumbnail works for 100% of people. Our own click-through rates, all of our click-through rates reflect that you can't please everybody. You know, and there are some people that, and again, valid points. You're drawn to my face first, what have you, you know, but like I said, there are things that do psychologically work in this. And if I look at it, and maybe later we'll bring up some other comparisons in terms of thumbnails, but what this does well, and I'm not claiming that it's the perfect thumbnail, but I will tell you what it does well, and it'll help you understand some other things that I'm doing, because I have some other thumbnail examples that I'll explain to you just as a learning exercise. And then I'll show you the Photoshop stuff, because we still have to talk about typography. Typography is huge, and we'll talk about that here. But what I will tell you, and why I believe this will work very well, is this. I am psychologically reaching the concept of time by having a clock there, whether it's a super well-designed clock or not. The point is, it's psychological for it to be there, and pointing to it is psychological because of the value of time. And then the fact is that when we say how to get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, I'm proving my credibility on the subscriber version with the silver play button. I already have far beyond the subscriber requirement, so that's a credibility social proof piece. That is a validation piece. The YouTube icons are a subliminal message in addition to the play button to trigger somebody's association and recognition psychologically with YouTube. What you're going to learn about YouTube thumbnails and graphic design, and a lot of you are not classically trained in graphic design and photography. But if you ever have a background in graphic design, photography, advertising, marketing, you'll find that psychology and human behavior and knowing things like color theory, repetition, recall, and recognition and credibility, that these things play a role in the way you're marketed to. And there are subliminal messages that trigger a response. So another thing is contrast. Having the 1,000 subscribers in red and it being kind of that YouTube red does a couple of different things. It makes both the 1,000 and the 4,000 more impactful than if I just had it white. And I'll show you the difference immediately. So if you look at this where I have it white, it's not as impactful as the other way around. It's just not. It immediately grabs our attention because one of the things in our visual acuity is that red has a higher contrast value, and we're psychologically programmed to recognize red, both for fire, danger, blood, all those things. We're psychologically, primally programmed to acknowledge red. Now, some people abuse this in their design. I use it intelligently because I'm also contrasting it with blue. And there are a lot of sports teams that do this very well. So I'm using red, white, and blue, also the colors of the American flag. Not an accident that they made the American flag those colors, by the way. Like, there is a psychological, historic principle that goes back very far in choosing colors. That's why studying color theory is something that all designers do. And again, you don't have to have a background in design, but if you understand at least a few design principles, you have an advantage over everybody that does not. You have an advantage over everybody that is not if you understand color theory and you understand color psychology and what's called Gestalt principles. So by using repetition, by having multiple of those YouTube logos, I'm reinforcing something psychologically that most people only understand subliminally. And so that's a trigger. The other one is the contrast by using the red, the white, the blue, and the depth and the drop shadows. There's a psychological trigger for that. Again, displaying the concept of time, that's something that's subliminal. And then the YouTube play button there is a call to credibility, authority, and showing social proof. It's also familiarity, and it's also, again, creating a aspirational gap of you desire this outcome I already have. So when I say that, that makes a lot more sense, right? And then the fact that I'm smiling and excited puts a positive spin on things. And it's like, don't you want to be that happy? Don't you want to have that silver play button? Don't you want to know this thing that I know? So like, there's, again, human behavior and psychology. I'm actually ridiculously more insane than most YouTubers and more thoughtful and more neurotic and have a higher level of anxiety. So I obsess over this more than anybody. And again, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But good news for all of you, you at least know how thoughtful and how much effort I'm putting in for anything I get. So I believe in the magic says, I'm the Miss Super Chat. I asked thumbnails involving Facemask if that affects the facial recognition at all. I do theme park videos, and I wonder if that is something to do with anything to do with viewer rate. So unfortunately, Facemask sometimes make it harder to recognize that it's you unless there's something very iconic about you, how you look. Unless there's something super iconic about how you look, like some of the YouTubers who have their hair dyed a specific color or something like that, or they're known for something, like it becomes a little harder for people to say, oh, hey, there's that person that I like, if they're not used to that. But you have to wear the face mask. It's a regulation, especially in the theme parks. It's for everybody's safety. So totally get that, totally understand. Also, the face mask has become polarizing. So there might be people who just don't click because, oh, you're wearing a mask. I'm not going to click. Some, not me, but some viewers are just like that. It'd be like that sometimes. So that's another thing to consider. As for the facial recognition in the data analysis, it won't probably pick up on your emotion or expression in the facial recognition emotional side of it because of the mask. So it's a your mileage may vary thing there. So, yep. Let's see. Hey, Leela. Let's see. Breast cancer, SIP, and sip and chat with Queen Bee says, point of the clock tells me it takes time, but you can get a silver play button once you get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. Makes me know that I can get one. Yeah, so like it's also an encouragement thing. So there's some aspect to that. MG Cart says the red in the center of the silver play button looks odd. I don't know. Is it difficult to articulate why this thumbnail isn't drawing me in? Maybe just because it like there might be something that is specific to you as an individual. I will tell you guys this though. The views and click-through rates on my videos using the silver play button and then using my added YouTube like little filter of me deciding that I'm going to put like the red glow on it to get more attention have had very, very high views. Very high views. Doing this changed the game for me. Making this one change and using this philosophy has made almost all of my YouTube tips videos where I actually do this much more successful than any previous versions of them, of those ideas. And so I noticed the difference immediately. It may not be what everybody's feeling, but it was enough of the general audience to make a substantial difference in the performance of my videos compared to not. So I just wanted to, show you guys why I'm doing things. It's data driven 100%. There's 100% data driven reasons for me doing specific things. And I showed you guys that data earlier and how I measure it. Publish X says, my channel has exploded recently. Thanks, Roberto. What do you think of my thumbnails? If I get a chance to look at them, I might peep at them. But if your channel's exploding, then you're doing thumbnails that resonate with your audience. Because just remember, everybody, the things I'm teaching you can help you. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. That's why we do A/B testing. And that's why we do certain things. Now, someone's asking, is that font large enough? Well, if I shrink this, and again, I had another variation of this that I was testing, but here's the thing. If I shrink this to a reasonable size, it still works out pretty well. And even if the font doesn't, the play button does. So you see, I'm taking advantage of, even if it was super small, there's a recognizable element. And that red is showing up and making the YouTube play button more visible than if I don't do it. So now everything I'm doing makes sense if you think about mobile. If you think about mobile and you think about that, everything I'm doing starts to make more sense. So let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about typography, because I did want to make sure that we talk about typography. We talked about text versus no text. We talked a little bit about photography and Photoshop, and we talked about color theory. And I still want to address some of those things, but let's look at typography. You'll notice that I have a concept here for no text, and I think you guys will like this one for some mistakes that every YouTuber makes. I actually was inspired for this thumbnail by PewDiePie, believe it or not. So this one has no text at all. And you can see the sharp contrast between the blue background, the red logos, and then also me standing out from that background, but the pose tells the story. The photography tells the story here. So how do you guys, like this one? Because again, the photography tells the story. Clover Tax says, if the peeps need thumbnail help, they should check out the starter kit. Link in the description. Yes, definitely check out the YouTube starter kit. Link is in the description. If you do decide to buy it, there is a 30% off discount code running to the end of January if you happen to get that. And yeah, 30% off until the end of January. But yeah. Kyle asks, is YouTube your main job or side job? I don't know that I even have a main job anymore. I have so many income streams and so many online businesses that I'm running right now that I don't know how to classify that to a normal person. I don't say that arrogantly. I say it in this way. The problem is that a normal person thinks of a 9-to-5 job or thinks of a main job as what you spend 40 hours a week on. And the thing is, what I spend my time on overlaps to all of my bigger goals. So it's not like a normal person. Normal person has a very specific job or a very specific thing. They work on that a certain amount of the day, and they do that more or less every day. Also, do we count a main job based on where you make most of your money? Because again, once you start making a certain amount of money, there's nothing that is the majority of your money if you're doing it right. Because if you're doing it right, once you make a certain amount of money, you're diversified to the point to where nothing is more than 30% of your income. If you are doing it, and I don't say this arrogantly, I'm making a business point, I'm making an income point. When you diversify your income and you're no longer a single income or dual income person, and you're truly diversified and you want leverage, you're diversified and you shore up the diversity of your income streams to where there's no one income stream that exceeds about 30 to 35% of your overall income. Nothing should be close to half of your income. That's what it takes to be stable. and to be secure and to know that your life won't be disrupted in a very meaningful way. And the goal is to live off of less than 30% of your income. If you can get it closer to 15% or lower of your income is what you need to survive and maintain your lifestyle. And that's your lifestyle, not your bare minimums. I'm talking your lifestyle. The goal is to get that to under 30%. And the thing is, you'll really do well if you can get it to under like 15 or 10%, but you have to make much bigger numbers to do that, or you have to pay off your home to do that. So again, this is why I could probably do a whole like 2 or 3 hour lecture just on the business of YouTube, or the business of social media or being an influencer, is because again, I don't know how to answer this question to somebody not in my position anymore, because my YouTube ad revenue, which I've shown you guys before, but I have a video about how much I make on YouTube with 500,000 subscribers coming up. The ad revenue is quote unquote only $40,000 a year. I say only, and I know that that's a good salary for a lot of people, but it's quote unquote only $40,000 a year. Now, for what most people put into the effort of YouTube, if you translate that to hours to effort to dollars, it's okay. It's only okay. And depending on where you live in the country, $40,000 may not cut it for a decent lifestyle. I live in Georgia, so that wouldn't be too bad. However, I've shown you guys on live stream my real numbers on affiliate marketing. And again, this is a spoiler for a video I'm making, but I'll tell you guys, it's like, hey, just between us, spoiler for another video. But I did $100,000 last year in affiliate marketing. So I exceeded my YouTube ad revenue, which is $40,000, with about $100,000 of affiliate marketing, with about roughly 80,000 of it being recurring affiliate marketing, which means that I don't have to keep selling to maintain that. It's in perpetuity for lifetime of accounts sold as a revenue sharing deal, which means whether I work all year or not, whether I like sleep in, go on vacation, I would maintain that money. So the reality is I probably, if I took an entire year off, would probably still make well over $100,000 on the YouTube side of the house, taking a whole year off from YouTube, which is not most people's situation. So that's why I'm saying I have a hard time answering this question, because my situation is not the least bit relatable to 99% of people. It is a very specific set of circumstances that took me almost a decade to build and a decade of prior knowledge to be in a position to build. So it's not something that is relatable to ordinary people in any meaningful way. The only thing I can do is explain it as a goal that someone could pursue through a very specific process, by understanding very specific principles and having the patience to do it long term, just like I'm doing with my real estate. Not real estate, sorry, I misspoke. That's a future plan. my investing in my portfolio, which later will become real estate as well. But like my stock investing is not a sexy plan. It's a very slow paced, patient, methodical, very nerdy plan that has no excitement to it at all for normal people. And the same thing with my YouTube strategy. My YouTube strategy is not viral videos. I have a very specific YouTube strategy. Then there's the brand deals. The brand deals are interesting. I can't get into exact amounts per brand deal, but suffice it to say, let's just make the assumption that my YouTube sponsor deals were more than my YouTube ad revenue. It was about like 50K. So if you put it like that, I'm making like, on the YouTube, I have to redo the numbers. I have to look at my spreadsheet. But if we don't count my other online business ventures and e-commerce, if we just look at affiliate marketing, YouTube sponsorships, merchandise, ad revenue, it's like $180,000 a year. So that would be somebody's full-time gig. And they would say, oh, is that your main job? But my coaching business did more than my YouTube ad revenue, and it's independent of me needing the YouTube channel because I can run ads. And then I'm doing other royalty things, books. There's now like this other stuff that I'm getting into that I'm not going to talk about yet. There's other spin-off business ventures that I have that are in development. Some of it got sidelined by COVID-19. So like I said, I, as a business person, have a philosophy to where you want to diversify to the point to where nothing is more than 30% of your income, so that if it goes away, it's not soul crushing. It's just inconvenient and uncomfortable. So for me, there's no such thing as a main job or a side job anymore, which is a hard thing to explain to people. There's no such thing as a main job or a side job for me, because the 40, 50, or 60 hours a week I put in is for my overall goal that helps everything below it. It's all part of a grand plan, because I don't believe in jobs. I believe in income sources. A job is a single income source for most people. A side hustle is a supplementary income source for more people. I don't believe in jobs. I believe in income sources. A job just happens to be most people's income source. And that's the only way I know how to explain it from my point of view, because I don't have a way to make it relatable. And I understand that, but I'm a nerd. Nothing in my life has ever been relatable to most normal people. That's why I'm a freak of nature and an outcast and a loner, is because, you know, if I wanted to fit in, I'd be doing what normal people do. So again, I hope I'm explaining that well, because I just don't know how to communicate that in a way that some people can't take the wrong way or take out of context or feel as pretentious or arrogant. There's no comfortable way to talk about money in a way that is relatable once you make a certain amount of it. There's at least not for me. I just haven't found a way that makes it feel comfortable. The only thing I can do is explain what would make your life better. I don't know that it will make you feel good. I can only explain to you things that might make your life better. I don't know how to also make it feel good. And I just hope that makes sense, and I just hope that that's good enough. Clover says, yeah, the YouTube starter kit's linked down below, so just, check that out. You don't like red on red. That's cool. Let's see. Roberto, just a soft reminder for my question. Any tips on improving CTR for a music provider channel? Okay. So let's look at, if we look at like some of what I'm doing here, if I think about a music channel, because I actually have a new music channel, believe it or not. If I think about that and I think about what we're doing over there, I guess I could, in theory, just bring that channel up and I could show you my thoughts on that. And then we'll talk more about this thumbnail theory with text, or rather with typography. So I can show you that. Let me just switch the screens real quick in terms of that, and it'll help me help you. So let's look at, hang on. Oh, that's better. Okay. So music channel. Okay. So let's look at this. This is like the actual YouTube homepage. This is the actual YouTube homepage right here. Okay. Now I watch a lot of lo-fi. I listen to a lot of lo-fi channels and stuff like that. You'll notice in general, like that standing out on the YouTube homepage can be very difficult. And the key here is the abundance of options. And this is also different on a mobile phone, right? I'm going to click on something for like my own music channel here. And I want to make a point. This artwork here is also the thumbnail for my music channel's video. And the only difference is that this is slightly animated between the waveform and the After Effects particles here. But other than that, this is just a very cool art piece for a thumbnail. Now, regardless of what your genre of music is, mine is lo-fi and chill hop. Like, regardless of what your theme of music is, the idea is an enticing visual element that would stand out on the YouTube homepage, which means it's probably gonna have to be bright, high contrast, or something just really dynamic. So that's really important. The other thing is to consider the YouTube Music app as well. So you'll want to do a lot of testing, and you'll want to examine that app, and you'll also want to look at, without people having to be popular, what is interesting even to you or other people without them knowing how popular something is or it being a name brand or any of that. You have to really appeal to the psychology of people liking what they like kind of thing. So in terms of improving the CTR, I would argue in many cases it has more to do with a combination of title and thumbnail in most cases, but especially in music, because it could come down to genre of music, and it could come down to the style, and also just anything that is attractive in that way in terms of a qualifier, because there might be, oh, I want music to sleep to, I want music to study to, I want music to chill to, I want music with a sad vibe. So you have to remember, emotions drive decisions. Emotions drive decisions. Repeat that with me. Emotions drive decisions. So that's true for the title. It's true for the thumbnail. It's true for your facial expressions. It's true for the body language in a photo. All of it matters in terms of the emotional state of the viewer and how that leads to their decision-making process. So keep that in mind. So we went with a certain kind of aesthetic that I'm going with for a lot of stuff when it comes to music. If you guys want to check this out, the Lofi channel, and we're doing some stuff with that, is Zenbuster Music. If you guys want to check that out and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Also, I'd appreciate you, just checking out the music and telling us what you think. But I'm making this point to show you, as a music channel, that if you want to increase CTR, you have to really think about the psychology of the viewer and branding for a specific audience, both in the thumbnail aesthetic, the title, identifying the genre of music, and also what someone values. Like for me, I'm trying to hit creators up. So putting copyright free in there and letting people know, hey, if you're a streamer, you can use this music. That's actually very valuable to me branding wise long term, because by next week we should have like 6 or 7 of these out, and then a 1-hour mix compilation, and then hopefully by Valentine's Day we'll finish our Zodiac drop of 12 songs on top of all of that for the Zodiac album. But the point that I'm making when showing you this and showing you what we're doing, showing you what I'm working on, the way I think about it, is that it's really all coming back to this psychology. The other thing we like to do is, because of the genre of music that we're in, is we like to have some element that kind of conveys movement, but also elements of fantasy. But that's also, again, the genre that we're playing in. So psychology and understanding the viewer that you want to reach is everything, regardless of what type of content you're making. Just always think about how you put the viewer first. And that means getting into the viewer's head and knowing what they like and what is psychologically going to be the most appealing to them. Bloodbath and Beyond. Hey, how's it going, guys? Love your content. And I know you guys sometimes struggle with the monetization side, but really appreciate you being here in the stream. So Bloodbath and Beyond says, thanks for breaking all of that down. Income sources make a lot of sense. Yeah, that's a big deal. And thank you for all the super chats and the live streams. I do appreciate it. Nikki, Pixel TV, many blessings to you. Thank you for the $9. Thank you, Fire Reed. Big up from Jamaica. Yeah, the business stream is going to be fire. The business stream, I think, is going to be huge. And yeah, Olu TV, yeah, 9 to 5 right now for a lot of people. And I don't mean to harp on this. 9 to 5 could be a very risky business for a lot of people. Pun intended there. Because you just don't know. You can get fired, and it might not even be your fault. It might be COVID. It might be the industry going down. It might be something your employer screwed up. It could be something happening in the region or with the state or anything that just happens in the world that's beyond your control. So that's why I like diversifying. Diversifying is so important to me because there's less anxiety. It's more work. It's stressful up front, but the long-term anxiety of knowing that I have some cushion, some level of safety, the ability to invest more, the fact that it takes a lot of things going wrong instead of a single point of failure is why I believe in building income sources more than I believe in stability coming from a job. When you're super young and you have no experience, it might, but I'm even trying to encourage young people to start side hustling and making money on their own terms early, and getting a job is fine when you need one. I have nothing against, like, a lot of people will say and think that everybody that's in Make Money Online is against 9-to-5 jobs or is a fake guru. But the thing is, a lot of us have just experienced the pain and hardship of being in a 9-to-5 job where you have like an abusive boss, or you don't like the job, you're doing it even though you hate it because you have to, the lack of freedom, or the anxiety of just knowing that your income can be taken away from you because you can be fired. So like, a lot of us who have just been through that and have ever been fired or downsized or survived the last economic crash, we just know that like jobs may be what everybody are doing. That doesn't make them a good idea. And it doesn't mean that it's stable. It doesn't mean that there's any such thing as job stability. Whatever the old cliche and comfort was, whatever old pact used to exist in terms of fidelity between an employer and an employee and any loyalty that was assumed there, I think that probably was not true in our parents' generation. It's certainly not true now. So I'm not going to sit here and encourage that just so that I'm never called a fake guru, because I think that what happened to everybody recently with COVID just proves that there's not loyalty, and sometimes it's not even anybody's fault. There's not loyalty and there's not stability, and you can't rely on the idea of a job anymore. You just can't. You can only rely on yourself. Like, I hate to say it that way. I just think a harsh reality that just hit millions of Americans, millions of people worldwide. And I'm not going to sit here and try to score brownie points by trying to say anything different, because that's not people's lived experience anymore. People's lived experience, and I'm not saying everyone should be a YouTuber or be an entrepreneur either. I'm saying that, bottom line, you know what you can rely on at the end of the day? You know what you can rely on? Yourself. Harsh as that might sound, negative as that might sound, it's like, if you're gonna rely on anything, you probably can rely on yourself. So thank you, Cetria's Art and Comics channel. You've been given a lot of dense info that are long, needs notes, and require a rewatch. Thank you. Looking forward to the business stream. The business stream is gonna be grab a snack, grab your notebook. It's gonna be real. Yeah. So thank you for that. Leela, hey, how's it going? Been missing a lot of your lives recently, but this one is good so far. It's bedtime though. Need to tuck in. Yeah. I totally get it. Totally get it. Let's see. Yep, makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Cool. So let's see. No, I'm not starting a party rental company, but thanks. Let's see. Dropping jewels. Thank you. Let's see. Got another super chat. Is the starter kit super helpful or necessary for a beauty channel? Roberto, would help me reach a broader audience to get to monetization. I think that better photography, look, I'm not like just trying to sell the YouTube starter kit. I think that besides the 100 thumbnail templates and the 20 title formulas, there's a lot of good stuff in the YouTube starter kit. That's why I built it. But you don't have to buy it. And I'm telling you in this stream how to do everything yourself, so you don't have to buy anything from me or anyone else. But buying something can help sometimes because it can be intimidating to do everything from scratch, and sometimes you want a starting point. And there's some free stuff out there. Some of it's good, some of it's not. But the thing I built, I know I built it to be great, and I know that over 1,000 creators have benefited from using it. So it's there if you want to. But if you're a beauty channel, I would focus on photography, and I would go take my money and I would go buy a macro lens. I would go buy either a macro lens or an 85 millimeter. I'd get someone to help me with my thumbnails through doing photography. And I'd get either something like an 85 millimeter Sigma lens, or I'd get a macro lens, either a macro 50, 90, or 70 millimeter or 100 millimeter lens. So I'd get a macro lens for photography. And if I was doing beauty content, or if I was working with a client doing beauty content, we would do macro shots of the makeup brushes, or macro shots that take advantage of the face and the eyelashes and the lips and things like that. We would just do macro photography for the thumbnails, and we would make them look like beauty billboards or what should be on the packaging of a beauty product. And we'd use that as our standard. We would use the standard of photography of multi-billion-dollar companies and we wouldn't post if we didn't feel it met that standard. If we didn't feel that this is something we could walk into a L'Oreal boardroom of their marketing department with. If I was working with a beauty channel as director of creative, and we didn't feel like the photo and thumbnail is something we could walk into L'Oreal or Neutrogena with and in our portfolio and feel confident, we'd go back to the drawing board. Now that's extreme. And if you're a small YouTuber, that might sound harsh or intimidating, but I'm just telling you that I believe disproportionately in the concept of like just trying to be higher value and really pushing the boundaries on making quality packaging and branding. And that's why if you look at the extremes I've gone to in literally the photography and poses and literally hundreds of individual poses for my thumbnails, you can see that even though it doesn't always work, it doesn't always get me views, I'm just going all out because I'm trying to just do the best for my viewer. I'm just trying to go all out and pull no punches and know that I gave it my best shot, leave everything on the field, just like when I was a track and cross country runner. So, that's just kind of my thought and my approach. My approach is to just literally not do it halfway. I just don't believe in settling for mediocre as an acceptable standard. I don't believe in doing something halfway. Natural Larisha says, "You're right. I have a 9-to-5 job. I do business on the side. Goal to become a full-time entrepreneur and develop multiple streams of income." Yeah, that's the way. This is the way. You explained it perfectly. All good if it works for you, Roberto. It worked for me because I put it works because I put in the work for it, someone's asking, why don't you talk more about how broke you used to be and how hard you worked to got the income you have now? And I find that very relatable if you framed it that way. Two reasons that I do have some videos coming up with that. One, lately, because of everything with COVID and then some other personal reasons, it's gotten to a point to where it's hard for me to talk about that stuff without crying and my nose running and looking god awful on camera. And then I also don't then want to be accused of manipulating my audience emotionally by crying on camera every other video. So that's rough. That's just not that, believe it or not, that's how it is. That's what you get accused of when you're a YouTuber with any kind of audience or size of, like, you constantly get accused of those kind of things, or faking a poverty backstory, which it's like, funny enough, it's like, oh, gee, I'm a Black Latino man in America from an immigrant family and a child of divorce who grew up in the South. Gee, I guess I have to make up some poverty backstory to make people feel sorry for me, as if. But that's what people accuse you of on the internet. So there's part of that just gets in your head, even if it's not the majority of your audience that would think that way. The nature of criticism and skepticism really just gets to a point to where sometimes you don't even want to bother making a video. And so that's real. Talking about and remembering those struggles and what my family went through sometimes is just reopening my trauma. And so talking about it outside of therapy just becomes a form of self-abuse. So even though people might find it relatable as a viewer, it's not necessarily in the interest of my own mental health to go there all the time, or to do it that often, or to do it the amount of times required to capture things on camera. It's just not healthy sometimes if you are not in a place mentally and emotionally to revisit certain things in your life or your past or those experiences. Because one, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. And it's not always healthy. And especially right now, no matter how good you have it, right now with everything that's happening in the world, it's just another way to make yourself depressed. So I don't that often. There will be videos like that. I believe those videos are helpful and necessary, but it's just like, I have to be in a place where I can go there. Even talking about it now, you can tell that it's like, it's got me down. So so that's why it's, people, you have to remember that people on YouTube as content creators, there are things that are in our lives that just aren't relatable. But a lot of the things that are, or that would humanize us, some of that stuff is just too raw or too real, and vulnerability is important, and you can be vulnerable and you should be vulnerable, but like it's not for everybody, because sometimes you're just really setting yourself up. You're exposing this painful experience, and not everybody will be empathetic to you. And not everybody will act in good faith, and not everybody will respect boundaries. And so, it hits different for everybody. It just hits different for everybody. And so it's a thing, and you just got to know what you do and don't want to put out there in terms of wearing your heart on your sleeve, because sometimes people will just rip it out of your chest if you do. So people can be disappointing like that. Life be like that sometimes. People will disappoint you. So, yeah. Moving on, Super Nardfall. Want your thoughts on simple thumbnails? Sometimes literally a still from a video and how they're effectively pulled off. Also sent you some thumbnails on Twitter in case you look at some later. I'm losing my voice a little bit, so I don't know that I'll get to any of those. But thank you for that. So let's look at a simple thumbnail. Actually, I'll show you an idea I had for what you're talking about. You talked about simple thumbnails that use a screenshot from the video. I have a different approach of a screenshot from the video. I think if you're going to use a screenshot from the video, you might as well just take a better photo of that, because I just like the higher resolution quality and sharpness you would get if you just use a photo that would have been a still from the video. Like, if there's a still from the video that I'm like, oh, I'll make that the thumbnail, I'd still rather go back and just take a cleaner photo of that, just for the resolution and just for the sharpness and just for it to be well lit and all those things, and for me to not be blurry or my eyes to be out of focus. So this is an example though. I just took a photo as if it were a still, and I did this one for productivity for working from home. Similar for the making money working at home, work from home office setup. I took that one of the laptop. So there's that one. Be more productive. Instead of cutting myself out from the background, I used the photo, and then I cropped it in such a way. The main thing here with where I darken things, I'll show you. It's just because the crop, like there's no more zooming in on this. That would have been great. And then creating that dark part also helps the text stand out a little bit more. It makes it visually slightly more interesting. It creates some drama. It creates a little bit of tension and depth there, which can be good. I did something similar here. So this is how I utilize something that you're talking about with simple thumbnails. Super Nodfall is if I want to do that, I'm going to do it in such a way that allows me to, one, do the photography that would make it work. And then also I'm going to consider the framing, the composition, and I'm going to put myself on the far right-hand side there, because me being there, the YouTube timestamp in the corner won't be a problem, and I can put the text on the left. And the thing is, you'll notice that in a way, with a completely different channel, you'll notice I'm doing something similar to Rob from Comics Explained, one of the best comic book YouTubers there is, one of the biggest, I think. I think Rob is well over 1 million subscribers now. Maybe he's close to 2 million, I forget. But between him and Benny, I love Benny from Comicstorian, but I'm using a similar approach to Rob from Comics Explained in terms of my typography blocking, because I'm using 3 lines and I'm using color separation in terms of yellow, white, yellow. So I'm using color blocking, and I'm using a justified 3-block approach to text and typography. Super simple. You can even do that in Canva, believe it or not. And then I'm using a photograph, and then no other additional graphic design beyond sharpening and photo retouching. So if you look at that, that's about as simple as it gets. And I could have also just done a color shape block, like a rectangle or any type of slanted rectangle type image there as well. A lot of people do that, but I decided I just like using the black fading because I just feel like it's more interesting. I feel like it's more subtle. So, but again, you could do a lot of this in Canva if you wanted to in terms of this, but it's still a simple and professional thumbnail that's super clean. And I think that you can benefit from that example. And that's why I like showing that one here. So I hope that that makes sense in terms of showing a very simplistic approach to thumbnails that anybody could do without a graphic design background. Oh, you guys just subbed to the Zenbuster music channel? Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Roberto, bringing the fire. I guess we have to have just started up. We need to take small steps in the general right direction. Oh, absolutely. Taking small steps, taking advantage of cheap, free, paid resources, free information, paid information, all of it. Whatever you can do is super beneficial, and you just do it one thing at a time. Remember, I didn't have everything figured out from day one. I had an idea, I had ideas, I refined those ideas over time. I learned some things the hard way even. So it's fine. And again, I want to make more of these videos also about business and diversifying. I have a video coming out that is about my different income streams and things that I do, and breaking all of that stuff down, because I do feel, and I will make some kind of, I do plan in 2021 or 2022 to make the definitive YouTube business course, because I feel like there are a lot of YouTube courses, but when something has to focus on, starting a channel, growing a channel, connecting with your audience, making the videos look good, like when you can't just focus on, well, let's talk about the money. It's like, it's a lot, because the money deserves its own conversation. So at some point, I'm just going to build the ultimate YouTube business course that talks about money, talks about the diversity streams. But what's holding me back on writing that course is filming the course, is I'm actually writing a book on that right now. I'm writing a book on the business of YouTube right now. And I'm going into a lot of detail. I'm catching up on all the YouTube income reports that I have to finish. And I feel like I can't put out the course until I've put out the book. The book is going to be the more affordable option for most people, so the information will be consolidated, because the problem is I make a lot of videos on YouTube for free, but it's impossible to find them if the algorithm doesn't hit for you properly, right? Or if you don't type in the right thing, or whatever, or if notifications don't work. So it's like, we talk a lot about putting free information out, but it doesn't always work. And I think enough of you have probably been YouTubers long enough to understand that you can give away all the free information you want. It doesn't mean people are going to find it in the sea of everything that's out there. And even if they do, it's not consolidated. You can put it in a playlist all you want. It doesn't mean people will watch it in the right order either. So knowing the right things and in the right order matters. And the only means I understand and how to communicate that properly is to put it into a book and then to put it into a course. And that's just how it is. So, and yes, that also is really good revenue for me. I'm not going to pretend it's not, but if you do work hard and you put that effort and you create a great resource, why wouldn't you want to profit from it? You know, this ain't communism after all. So, you know, just a thought. So yeah, you're lucky you love your job. Yeah, not like, look, for the people who can find a great job, a great career, a great company, great coworkers, great CEOs that they admire, like, respect if you can find that situation. A lot of us not so lucky. A lot of us, you know, we don't get to work for great companies. We don't get to have great bosses sometimes. I'm hoping people who work for me will be able to say that they have a great boss. Roberto, been following your advice since I was 17, 18 now. I want to work for myself and have my own supply of income to live on. Yeah, if you're 18, I would say develop your skills first. And I don't think when you're 18, 19, in your early 20s, I don't think there's anything wrong with working for somebody else, but I would put yourself in a position to work for someone you can learn from, because I think the learning will be more valuable than the paycheck itself, even though you need the paycheck to survive, and I'm not going to pretend you don't. I do think if you can learn from a job that you're at, that the learning experience, the real world experience, the lessons could be infinitely more valuable to you in the long run than the paycheck. The paycheck is a means to survival. The learning is a means to leverage and agency and freedom later in life. So I would put myself in a position where I can learn. Claire Creates, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Appreciate you. Yeah. Insane McLean, thank you so much for being a member of Awesome Squad. Devo says Roberto is one of the most rational people on this platform. I try. Believe me, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Yeah, a lot of people just found out their jobs can be done from home. Yeah. And I want to make videos about that. I want to make videos about careers, jobs, and businesses you can start from home. And that's what these thumbnails are. But that's also why these thumbnails are simplistic. I want to show you guys something psychologically. Sometimes we need thumbnails to be simplistic psychologically because that will appeal better to a type of viewer. However, thumbnails like this appeal to someone who's like a creator or a creative. Like these will appeal to the video editing and After Effects and Photoshop and YouTube crowd in a certain way. And that's a certain demographic. And they recognize these symbols and the imagery, and this stuff kind of works for that. And we'll see how effectively it hits once I release these videos. However, there are instances where something like this won't work and something like this will work that is just more simplistic. You guys might remember there's a video of mine that has a similar thumbnail to this and a similar title to this that has almost 200,000 views now or more. It's a really good video. It's on, does uploading more to YouTube grow you faster? So I have a video that's somewhat the opposite of that explores the data and says, is there a scenario? And there's a specific scenario where this could be true. So I'm exploring the opposite side of a very successful video. One, that is a good strategy by itself. If you make a successful video and there's a way to come at the other point of view of that video later down the road, in this case for me, it's like 6 months later, so it's actually really perfect, then it's going to hit different. And the thing is, you're not contradicting yourself. You're playing devil's advocate. You're entertaining the other argument that may have even been made in your comments or even against your video or your idea if it was very successful. And the thing is, you're also acknowledging to your audience, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one point of view. If you're an information-based channel or if you're an opinions-based channel, that could be valuable to you. Or if you're a product-based channel, you could position yourself like Mac versus PC. You could do this with Mac versus PC. Or you could do this with one beauty brand versus another beauty brand. Or you can use this for videos where you're doing something budget-related that you did in the past that was successful. Now you can do the Ballers edition or vice versa. Okay, I've covered expensive stuff. Can I do the same thing with cheap products? You know, so there's more than one way to do the versus format. You can do the versus format as a versus video, or you could do it by making videos where you take opposite sides against yourself. And that can be very powerful, and it can make for very compelling titles and thumbnails. It also, in my case, I can make a very simplistic thumbnail here, and I do think this thumbnail will do very well with people. I do think when people are like, okay, does uploading to YouTube less grow my channel faster, or does it hurt my channel? Like that will work because people are like, all right, if I take a break from YouTube, what happens? Or if I upload less, what happens? There's a tension there. And this facial expression acknowledges that tension. The YouTube frowny face like acknowledges that tension. There's anxiety there. And then the YouTube icon, the call out, the red, you know, the things that hit for people. Less and grow are the things that are going to hit for people, not upload and not necessarily more, but even more and upload are called out by the white. So like, you see what I'm doing here. It's again, it's learning user behavior, psychology, emotional intelligence, you know, it's something to really think about. Now, when it comes to typography, you'll also notice, because like Shark Scrapper says, what about typography? So you'll notice in these thumbnails that I'm using some very interesting approaches to typography, except when I'm not using it at all. And we talked about using text versus no text, right? So here I use two words: crushing channels. Okay, crushing channels. And the title for this one is probably going to be, is live streaming hurting your YouTube channel growth? or something like that. I still haven't nailed the title, but it's basically going to come down to, does live streaming hurt your YouTube channel? Actually, that's probably the title. Does live streaming hurt your YouTube channel? Because that's what people are going to want to click on. And that's what people are going to type. And that's the question. Does live streaming hurt your YouTube channel? And by creating this pose is doing majority of the work. But the typography and the text choices and the color choices are helping me here too. Now, some people said they're not feeling the red on red. There's a little bit of work I could do with some of that because it's not even now perfect, I don't think. But I think just even a little bit of brushwork in Photoshop can go a long way there. Let's see. I need probably, I need it on this layer. I don't need it on what I previously did. Whatever I previously did, I'll undo it later. Here we go. So let's see. Let's make sure that my text, my layer is going to be behind the things it needs to be behind, because it needs to be behind me, but above the, here we go. We'll create a new layer here, and I'll just call this brushwork. And I'm going to use about maybe a 30% opacity. And I'm just going to create a little bit more darkness and a little bit more tension and drama here. And then I'm going to use a 10%, get a little bit more in there, and gradually do this. Actually, let's undo a little bit of that, lighten it up a little bit. But I'm just going to create more tension by reducing a little bit of that red, getting a little bit more dark, making it feel slightly more sinister, make it like, and there we go. And I think that that makes it a little bit stronger. And if I want to pull it back a little bit, I can go here to fill or opacity, and I can pull that back just a little bit if I think it's too much. Maybe I pull that back to about 75% of what I did or 60% of what I did, but you can see that I'm creating more tension. There's less red there. And if I want to make sure that the, text is standing out more, I can just get the dark behind it a little bit more dark and create a little bit more visibility there and tension, and that just evens that out, right? So I think that makes that slightly stronger. We'll hit save on that. It makes that slightly stronger, but the key here is the typography stands out. Even if I make this small, the emotion of these things is conveyed stronger than even the text. And it still would work text-wise relatively small for what I'm doing. But by using this negative YouTube face, this frowny face, this is communicating the emotional anxiety of the viewer, or mirroring the emotional anxiety of the viewer for these being negative frame topics. Negative frame topics, I'm using a specific element that mirrors the emotion of the audience. And then I'm using the YouTube logo as a familiarity recall piece there for context of, oh, this is about YouTube. But notice I'm using facial expression and body language in all three of these thumbnails to maximum effect to tell the story of the video before you click on it by mirroring your own emotion or framing what emotion you will have going into the video or around the topic itself. So again, it's really thoughtful. It's really thoughtful instead of, oh, let me just find a frame in my video to use for my, no, I'm being ridiculously intentional about all of this. You don't have to go this far, but I do feel that if you look at the biggest YouTubers, not all of them, but a lot of them are going this route, a lot of them, and now you understand what it is that they are doing. You understand why they make certain facial expressions. You understand their body language, their pose, the setup, the props, the icons, the logos that they use, now makes a little bit more sense, just a little bit more sense. Clover, thank you for sharing the link to the YouTube starter kit. Make sure you guys are checking that out. awesomecreatoracademy.com/starter kit. Or you can go to tuberstarterkit.com, tuberstarterkit.com, or use the link in the description down below. So yeah. Atomic Z09, I I didn't see your super chat question, and like I can't always see them. If you ask the question again, I can. If you ask the question again, I can try and answer it. But the idea that you're throwing money away. When you super chat a YouTuber, they're not obligated to do something. It's nice if they do, and we try to. But sometimes when we're trying to do the live stream or we're trying to keep up with the with everything, we miss the super chat sometimes. So if you missed one, just say, hey, you missed mine, or here's my question again. But like this idea that if you give somebody money, if you feel like you are going to give a donation in the form of a live stream, and this is for anybody, and you're expecting something in return and you're going to be angry that you don't get it, then we would ask you probably just not to do that, because we don't want anybody to throw money out there and then be angry or disappointed. If you're going to be angry or disappointed if something doesn't go a certain way, just hold on to your cash, because like we don't always get to everything. Sometimes we need to end a stream, sometimes things happen, or sometimes we don't see them, or sometimes the chat streams by, or we're trying to get to something, or if you're me, your voice is dying because you've been doing this almost 2 hours. So, we're not trying to ignore people or do anything like that. If you feel like if you don't get your acknowledged that you threw away your money, then don't donate. Like, we would ask you not to donate. We appreciate the donations, but I never want somebody to put money out there and feel like they're not getting what they want. So I'd rather they just didn't. Blaine says, can you tell me more about your consultation services and how they can help? I put that information on the awesomecreatoracademy.com website. So I don't want the live streams to end up being like a sales pitch for my stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people do it that way, and I don't have anything against people doing it that way. I just don't want it to be a sales pitch for my coaching. So if you go to awesomecreatoracademy.com, there's a helpful video on the website, and there's a lot of detailed information about every product and every service so that you can get all the information you need. And if you have other questions, you can DM me on Twitter, say, hey, I want to know more about coaching or more about the academy. Happy to answer your questions. I just don't want the live stream to become a QVC sales pitch for my stuff. And there's nothing wrong with people doing that. And if there's something I want or need to pitch, I'm definitely happy to do that. I encourage all of you to sell something and to make some money and to free yourself up. Totally. But all the info on Awesome Creator Academy, go to the website in the description, and you'll get that, because I don't want to just, sit here and pitch you. Let's see. What would you recommend for someone going down the reaction video lane? For the reaction videos, I would say photography and facial expressions are definitely a big deal. I'd also say people's familiarity with the thing you're reacting to. You need to capitalize on their familiarity with the thing that you're reacting to, but your facial expression should make it interesting enough for a general audience, if that makes sense. So again, I would say body language and facial expressions are a big deal. Body language and facial expressions are a big deal. Sarah says, I was writing SEO for my next video in Tubebuddy, and I put the thumbnail that I'd made for it already. And after looking at it compared to the other thumbnails for similar videos, I thought I could do better. And I made another one that was more zoomed in on the subject. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Looking at the other thumbnails that are competing for the thing you want to do and then saying, I want to make mine better, is what I always look at. And like, if you can, absolutely do that. Exactly, bro. Great advice for both young and old. I'm 68 and now learning how to do videos on to support myself. I have helped everyone. Now I have to help me. Yeah. I mean, when you're working and stuff like that, most of your effort is making somebody else money. So a transition to making that effort serve you the most is what's practical. Just another piece of life advice here. Look, if you think hard work doesn't get you anywhere, or everyone works hard, but they don't have anything to show for it, or they don't get anywhere, it's not really true. Everybody who works hard that doesn't have anything to show for it is probably working hard for somebody else. And the person they're working hard for is who got all the value. And it's not anybody's fault that you weren't putting all that hard work into your dream instead of somebody else's. That's a choice. And it may be a choice you don't feel you're in a position to make, but it is a choice. And it might ask a risk of you. It might ask an unreasonable risk for you. And if you can't take that leap, if you can't make that risk, you have to take small steps to being in a position to do so. I wasn't in a position I wasn't really in the best position in the world to quit my job. I didn't have 6 months of my income saved up. I didn't have 6 months of living expenses saved up. And when I left, I made it work. I didn't have a choice. But I made the most reasonable choice for my mental health and sanity at the time. And I did that, and it paid off respectively. I know it doesn't always work out for some people. I'm not saying that it does. I'm saying that life be like that. There's no guarantee to anything working out. And so you have to make the most of it. And I think a lot of people's problem psychologically is they're desperate for a guarantee. And there aren't any in life outside of death. Like, as morbid as that might sound, the only guarantee you have in life is that it's going to end at some point. So you do the best you can with what you have. You make the most of it. You play the cards that you're dealt the best of your ability, and you make it work. You make it work. You make a way, or you find a way, but you press on. You press on and you hang in there. You hang in there, because as long as you keep playing the game, there is a chance to win. As long as you continue to play the game, the possibility of winning is there. It's only a certainty of loss if you refuse to play the game, or you quit, or you forfeit. It's a guaranteed loss. So the thing is, as long as you hang in there, there's some hope. There's some chance, But if you give up, that's how it is. How many years did it really take you to start growing YouTube? It depends on how you look at it. A lot of people look at the fact that that I made my account in 2009. YouTube 2009 was not what it is today. Most people made an account to comment. A small YouTuber did an analysis of my old YouTube history and stuff like that. I made like 4 videos in 2009. That's not trying to be a YouTuber. That's not trying to do anything. And back then, it was really mostly people putting up videos or hosting videos or sharing videos with family and stuff like that. It's like there wasn't any such thing as being a YouTuber in 2009, to be real with you. So it's a completely different time. So my first 4 years on YouTube mean nothing, because that wasn't me trying to do anything. My YouTube journey really begins in 2013. And in that year, I posted 47 videos. So I went almost weekly, which is really hard to do. That got me in 11 months to like 10,000 subscribers in 11 months. The following year, I did something similar, got to 20,000 subscribers in 2014. In 2015, when I had 2015, I had 20,000 subscribers. February 2015, I had like 20,000 subscribers. By the end of that year, though, I ended that year with like 70,000 subscribers, but I went daily or near daily. So like for me to get to 100,000 subscribers, it's not about how long it took me. It's about how many videos I had to make. It took me 700, 800 videos. Took me 700 to 800 videos, I think, to get to 100,000 subscribers. Some people that it takes them longer to make 700, 800 decent enough videos. Some people, it doesn't take them that long. Some people, it takes longer. Some people make great videos and they grow earlier and faster. Some people have skill sets in life. Funny story. A lot of people talk about the blow up of Kelly Stamps. I love Kelly Stamps. Kelly Stamps does a lot of things that seem like they don't fit YouTube best practices, but actually you'd be wrong. That's surface level. She actually is doing a lot more advanced stuff than people would think. But Kelly Stamps was always going to be successful, in my opinion. First of all, most people don't realize Kelly Stamps had an advantage that most YouTubers don't have. Kelly Stamps had already been practicing improv. She had already been doing stage improv. So Kelly Stamps blowing up on YouTube is not an accident or not luck to me, because it's like, oh, you did stage improv? Most YouTubers and most introverts, awkward on camera at first, have no idea how to be performative, no ability to do any of that. So she had training. So she had stage training and improv. Secondly, Kelly Stamps went into the Air Force when she was young. She has more guts and more discipline than 99.9% of people in this world, because she went into the military as a young woman. So she's got more guts and more discipline than everybody else who ever started a YouTube channel. So she was going to be successful, in my opinion, because she has more guts, she has more discipline, and then she has specialized training in something that would make her a really good entertainer. The rest, as they say, is history. Me, I didn't have that, but what I did have is the discipline of someone who's a track and cross country runner, the discipline of somebody who has fought for everything in life. And then I had skills from my background in corporate marketing, corporate advertising in America, my training as a graphic designer and a photographer, having made a living at that, and my background in SEO. So I had technical advantages, and I used, my big brain hacks to get where I am, because I have zero talent as an entertainer. So for me, I got to 100,000 subscribers after 3 years of making weekly to daily content and making 800 videos in a 3-year period. So that's what got me to 100,000 subscribers. Conversely, PewDiePie did the same thing, but got to 1 million subscribers. But our first 100 videos, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, got like 78 subscribers off 100 videos. Mr. Beast got 790 off of 100 videos. PewDiePie got 2,500 off his first 100 videos. So when you compare, I actually got further than 3 of the biggest YouTubers off of my first 100 videos. But that has nothing to do with going the distance because, well, for one, their stuff, they went more to a mainstream entertainment audience, and then they lived and breathed YouTube almost exclusively. And then they went specifically for the goal of building the biggest entertaining YouTube channels they could exclusively. And they also did it because they were part of the culture of YouTube at a young age. I came to YouTube as an adult, almost 30 years old. So big difference psychologically there, big difference in life circumstances. So never worry about how long something takes, in my opinion. Worry about actually genuinely doing whatever it takes. I don't worry about how long something takes as much as here's what it would take to do something. Great. How long is that going to take me at my current level of ability? Maybe I got to raise my current level of ability. Maybe I got to, as the kids would say, get good. So I just look at it from that perspective. Bobby says, awesome tips. The macro lens, definitely going to get one. Is using a Canon M50 with the basic lens it came with. I feel I want to go the full mile. I strive for perfection. I would get a better camera. I mean, that's good for the videos itself. And the Canon M50 is a decent camera. I have it here to actually teach beginning YouTubers. I have a video coming out on budget gear. I have some more gear videos coming out, but the Canon M50 is a good starter camera, but to really get the most out of everything, you gotta go to a bigger camera body. Maybe not full frame, but maybe something in a bigger camera, sensor, and lens. So let's see. I'm looking for Atomic's question now. No, Kyle, I'm like about to be 37 years old. I didn't do YouTube in college. I'm about to be 37 years old. Let's see. I'm looking for Atomic's question. I think I'm going to have to open up something in my YouTube studio just to see Atomic's question. I mean, I don't want him to be mad that he threw a almost $20 super chat. Hey, Justin Brown, thank you. I mean, I tried to answer a bunch of people, even the people who didn't super chat. I tried to answer as many of the people who didn't super chat's questions. So sometimes these things get by me. So I totally get it. Actually, Clover, if you can find Atomic's question, if you're one of the mods, could find Atomic's question, that would help me out. Sarah says, Roberto, I learned to sell for attention. That's a stepping stone to selling for money. Interesting perspective. When's your next channel review live stream? Maybe next week or maybe at the end of the month. Would you say 12 videos, 30 days old channel with 700 subs, 15K views is a good start? I told you, Mr. Beast did 100 videos to get the same amount of subscribers as you, and that's Mr. Beast. So if you did 12 videos and you already have a channel that got further than Mr. Beast did on 100, I'd say you're in good shape. I'd say you're in good shape. Yeah, if any of the mods can, if any of the mods can do, can find Atomic's question for me, and hit me up with that, that would be dope. That would make it easier on me. Because I don't know if checking the monitoring on the stream on the back end will crash anything. You either work hard for your own dreams or you're going to go and work and build somebody else's dream. Yep, 100%. 100%. 100%. Let's see. There is something I want to definitely get to about typography and picking your fonts, and I have it here in my notes, and I'm going to show you guys some of that here in Photoshop in a minute, and then I'm going to show you guys a few techniques to make a thumbnail from scratch at the very end here. This is a longer stream, but I did position it as a workshop, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about posing. But again, I am going to try and get to any of the super chats I missed. I'm scrolling up. I'm trying to find Atomic's question super chat because again, I don't want somebody who gave $20 to be mad that they didn't get their question answer. Thank you, Annie Lynn, for the super chat sticker of $2. Supernova Gaving, I'm trying to implement your tips even with using things like Tubebuddy and hoping I can get there since I'm in a different content section. I definitely have seen people succeed in different content sections. Look, you're a gamer. I've helped people like Bijou Mike, Skip the Tutorial. There's all kinds of people from gaming that have come up from this community. There's plenty of YouTube gamers who come from this community and use the advice and the tips. YouTube gaming's hard though because to be very real with you, it's a low-hanging fruit to do gaming because so many young people want to do it. Everybody's doing it. And it's not that it makes it saturated to the point of that being the problem. The problem is not that it's hard to stand out in YouTube gaming. It's that you'd have to have something to offer besides, oh, I'm doing a Let's Play channel or, oh, I'm doing a game review because that has been done to death. And there's very little in terms of ways to make that new and fresh and interesting beyond jumping on a new game. So the thing is, I hate to say it, but the problem isn't a saturation of gaming content. It's a lack of innovation and originality in the genre. It's a lack of innovation and originality in the gaming genre. So you'd have to figure out beyond my basic tips, you'd have to figure out an actual creative way to reach and do something meaningful in the gaming community. And that's just the harsh truth of it. How about donating people thumbnails? No, Firefly, if people there's plenty of free resources out there. I'm not going to be donating thumbnails. There's plenty of free resources out there, or people can use the, me teaching them how to fish and they can make thumbnails. Patton James says, oh, thank you, Patton. If thumbnails are high quality, but video quality isn't the best for a new YouTuber, will that cause high bounce rates or hurt the channel performance? Not if the personality is there. If you're a new YouTuber, but you can carry people either on personality or topic, then it doesn't matter. I mean, think about commentary channels don't always have high production values, but they have a great presentation. They have a great host, even if the camera or audio quality isn't fantastic, but their thumbnail drew people in. The news topic worked for them and they are delivering the value that the people want. So that's what people are looking for sometimes. Sometimes the power is in the personality, and so it's not about the production. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's see. Clover, did you or any of the mods find Adam Z's super chat? And is Adam still here? or if Adam, if you can ask your question again, because even when you posted and you were talking about it, you didn't repost your question, which would have actually been helpful. Like if you wanted an answer up to it, you know, more than complaining about not getting it answered, just posting it again would really, 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 really help. So I'm going to look for that for a second. I mean, I really want to show you guys this Photoshop stuff, but since we have somebody who is kind of upset that they, through a super chat that got missed, I got to deal with that. I got to address it because, you know, I want to be fair to them. And then also like, I don't want them to be upset about it. So I'm going to try to find it. It's not going to be super easy, believe it or not, because YouTube's system doesn't make it super easy sometimes, but I'm going to see what I can do. So, okay, found it. So Atomic Z, if you're still here, or if you're watching this in the replay, Atomic Z06, I can't pop your question up on the screen per se, but the question you had, I guess theoretically on some of these, I can put it into the chat technically, but it won't be on the YouTube chat. But maybe, or maybe I think I can, and I think I can show it. So here's your question. People do people really not click thumbnails? I always think of it as I always think of it as why they do click versus why they don't. Any thoughts? Yeah, usually it's the value proposition. People click on something or don't click on something based on what it means to them or whether or not it connects or resonates with them. They click on something or don't click on something for psychological reasons. Filtering, identifying with something, relating to something, it being a priority, it being timely, it being relevant to them, it making them curious, it making them mad. They click on something because they agree with it or they disagree with it or they're curious about it or they're interested. So there's always a reason. And again, it's not about them always not clicking on your thumbnail, it's that they're clicking on some other video. They're clicking on some video, it's just not yours. So that's my thought on it. It's a good question. But there you go. So since I missed that super chat, I've now got that super chat answered. And I think that is the only one that I actually did miss. I'm pretty sure that that's the only one I missed. Wait, there's one from Rob TV that I missed, and I'll answer that one. Rob TV. So Rob TV asked, do you have any idea what the CPM or RPM is of YouTubers who do paranormal, abandoned house videos, and does it fit into vlog and lifestyle? On average, the only ones I know about are the normal CPM on that. So it's somewhere between $2 and $5 CPM. So it's pretty normalized. It's not high like some other niches are. It's just normal. So that's my understanding. Yeah. So I think I answered all the super chats, including the ones I missed. So there you go. That should do it on those. So yeah, that should be any of the super chats that I missed. So let's get back to thumbnails, the thing you guys came here for. Thumbnails. The typography side for the thumbnails. Okay, so whether or not you're doing something like this, let's think about this. In this one, not super heavy on typography, but the thing that I did was I made the framing of the typography make sense for the thumbnail, and I got you guys to click on it here for the live stream. So, I mean, clearly that was effective. Because there are literally hundreds of you watching the live stream, which I really appreciate that. So with hundreds of you watching the live stream, this clearly worked in terms of, but it's like, I would say it didn't rely on the typography to do that. Now, on the other hand, I think that for things like this, the typography actually matters quite a bit. And so with the typography design for these thumbnails, the big thing here is if I make these small, they still work. Habits, still in there. Gadgets, home office. So the size and the readability thing matters a whole lot. The readability thing matters a whole lot. Here's the other thing that matters. The fact that I can use color as emphasis. The fact that I can use color as emphasis. This is easier to read because of what I did versus if I make all of this text white. If I make all this text white, it's just kind of boring. It's just kind of boring when you compare it. If I make this text white, it is boring compared to if I don't. And it actually makes it somewhat harder to read because it all just kind of runs together. But when I have it like this and it breaks it up, it makes it easier to read. It makes it much easier to read. So again, you don't have to be overly clever about any of this, but you do have to apply a certain amount of sense and you have to have a reason behind doing something. Keep in mind, everything I've shown you speaks to there's a reason behind every decision I made. None of it was arbitrary. I did this for this reason. I did this for that reason. I did this because of this. I did this because of this. It's all about the reason for doing it. Now, in terms of fonts, in this case, I chose Futura. Futura is a sans serif font that a lot of YouTubers use. You probably have seen it before, and that's because it's a nice, strong, bold font, and so you want to do that. You don't want very thin, hard to read fonts. It just doesn't work for YouTube. So you'll notice I use these big fonts. Sometimes I'll use Futura Heavy, and then I'll put an italic filter on it because that slant, that angle kind of creates a little bit of the sense of motion and more emphasis than if I don't have it. So for example, if I take that slant off of this, it doesn't make it that much stronger in any way. I could go either way with this. It doesn't hurt either way in this case, but you know, I think that looks better and it looks more impactful this way because it's the only way I have to convey movement in this particular thumbnail. So sometimes using those text effects matter. This one, I like it on this crushing channels, but in theory, I could do without it, and maybe it's stronger without it, but I don't think so. I think that it's stronger with it, so I'm keeping that. So that's just a text effect there in Photoshop that lets me use fake italics or faux italic, right? So now with these productivity ones, I just want strong, clean, large, bold font. So that's the typography side of this. Someone was like, the red on red though. Look, sometimes it works. Believe it or not, sometimes it works, but I have enough of a dark drop shadow to where I just have seen data on my channel. I don't think maybe this doesn't work for everybody. It's just that this look and this red on red thing has worked for me before. So I'm going off of the data I have. It may seem like it defies sense to some of you, or maybe it doesn't hit right for some of you, but for some of you, I'll overpower that with the fact that it's my video and you'll watch it out of curiosity or some other thing. So with fonts, some of them will come with your software, like Photoshop. Some of them you'll have to buy. Some of you can get with free fonts. Dafont.com is a big one. I use that a lot. So yeah. Brendan Sparks. Brendan Sparks, I said like that I acknowledged your super chat, Brendan. I said we may look at other people's thumbnails or look at like people's thumbnails. I never guaranteed that we would even look at other people's thumbnails because we wanted to focus on what I could train people to do. So like I just don't think I'm going to review people's thumbnails because we're almost like 2 hours plus into the stream at this point. My voice is getting a little bit hoarse. So I did acknowledge the super chat. I just had also said that we may not review people's thumbnails. So, just following up on that. Let's see. Is there a free program or websites for thumbnails? Or if you can't afford Photoshop, and Photoshop, guys, Photoshop is $10 a month. So if your channel is monetized in any way, or you make any money off of YouTube, or you have $10 a month, I think Photoshop's worth it. You get Photoshop, you get Lightroom, you get a lot of other stuff. I know that there's free stuff out there, but really nothing's better than Photoshop. And I think it's worth the $10 a month to be competitive if you want to ever be a full-time YouTuber or a full-time influencer. If you're doing this for a hobby and you want to use free stuff, you can use photop.com. Photop as in peas in a pod. Photop.com. So I would say use that. So you can use photop.com, and that would be a free-ish version of Photoshop. You can use GIMP. Canva is okay, but Canva is no Photoshop. Canva is no Photoshop. At the end of the day, Photoshop is so powerful. It's so powerful. And so I would just make that argument. Let's make a thumbnail here from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is with making this thumbnail from scratch is I'm going to make a new 1920 by 1080 thumbnail. Now what I'm doing here is a lot of people, they don't use 1920 by 1080 because you only have to use 1280 by 720, but I just like the bigger resolution because I just want to make the best thing possible at all sizes. So I'm just going to make the biggest thing possible. What I typically do is I'll choose to usually fill my background color to start with black, just because that just makes it easy for me to see things. Sometimes I'll use grid lines, sometimes I won't, just depends. What I will sometimes do is I know that about roughly here is kind of like my balance for like how much of, say, my face or where I want to be in a thumbnail versus where I might want to have text arranged. So I might start there. And sometimes just because it's easier for me to see myself visually, I'll go ahead and I'll pick like a red and I'll create a red layer. This red layer will make sense in a minute because it's going to be for me cutting myself out of a background. So let's say, let me find a photo real quick to cut myself out of a background. Just give me a quick second, you guys. And what I'll do is I'll use a photo where I might be like at my desk or something so that it's not I'll use a photo where I'm at my desk so that's not oh, well, that's easy because you have a backdrop set up with your perfect lights and all that stuff. I'll just use something like this. So this is me at my desk, being negative. So this is like for, a negative topic or something. So the thing I'm going to do in Photoshop is there's a tool here called Select Subject. And what it's going to do is it's going to literally be the easiest way for me to mostly cut myself out of the background without having to do anything. And then I'm going to use a tool in Photoshop called the Magic Wand tool. So for anything that I don't want in the photo, I'm going to hit the Alt key. I think that it's Command in Apple. I forget sometimes. And then I'm going to take my finger off of that and paint anything that I want to select. And this is the Quick Select tool. This is the Quick Select tool in Photoshop. You just hit W as the shortcut, or you go up here. It's different than the Magic Wand. You want what's called the Quick Select tool. So I'm doing that. And then later, if I miss anything, I'll paint it out or I'll paint it in. But this comes pretty close to just a handful of clicks to be able to cut myself out of the background. So once I have myself selected as a subject, I go down to the bottom and there's a tool called Mask, or I could go up here to Layer and I could go to Layer, Layer Mask, and then I could, select from these options. I'm just going to click the default button for masking here. And so you can see I've cut myself out of the photo almost perfectly. I say almost because I can get this a little bit cleaner, but look at how close that is. That's like really good already. And again, the only reason I'm not against the black background where a lot of this wouldn't matter is just that I'll clean it up later after I get myself in position. So for me, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control T and transform, and I'm going to scale up this photo of me. Now I can do this because this is a high resolution photo that I used from my camera, and it's a smart object, so it's not going to like hurt the quality that much. So you can see already how I'm kind of positioning the framing here of like where I want to be and how much I want to take up. So again, I'm just using some basic Photoshop wizardry. It's not really that big of a deal to kind of create the tone for this thumbnail. So this is basically, oh, Roberto is not happy here. Roberto is kind of frustrated. Roberto is hella frustrated, right? So this starts that first part. Now I'm probably in this case going to go with black, just because that's probably going to be the easiest thing to do to make this work. And for the tone, I might do something differently. But the red is just to help me with, you know, cutting myself out of the background here. Now, like I said, this wasn't perfect, and I'm not going to make it perfect in here, but I'm going to show you how I clean this up. So because we did a layer mask, I can click on the black and white part of this layer mask, and I can use a brush tool. And I'm going to tell you a secret to masking. White reveals, black conceals. So when I want something painted back in, like let's say I think I got too close here with my ear, I'm going to use and I'm going to make the hardness on this brush like 90%. I can use a white brush, and I can just paint back in a little bit around my ear where I think it was too close. Then I'm going to zoom in a lot, and I'm going to shrink my brush. Now, some people prefer to use the pen tool and be exact. I like, it's YouTube. I'm not doing all of that. I would if this was a print billboard campaign or something. I'm just going to come in here with my brush. I even have like a tablet I could be doing all this with, but it's YouTube. I can just come in here. I can clean up the edges a bit. It'll be all right for YouTube. And there's like little other things I will blend in. Nobody will be the wiser. This does not have to be perfect. I'm being extra as it is. So I just come in here with my brush, and I prefer to modify my brushes to have a slant, kind of like a paintbrush. And yes, Adobe Spark is a great tool that's free or affordable that has a great remove background tool. I'll probably do a video on how to remove backgrounds in one click with Adobe Spark at some point, because I think that'd be dope for some of you. But I'm just cleaning this up as best as I can here. Going in here and just cleaning up some of these edges where there's like some light spill or some shadows and stuff like that or whatever. And I'm just cleaning this up a little bit. And you can get a sense of just, you know, this is how, when you look at my thumbnails, this is why they turn out the way that they do. Because I go back in and I do this stuff. Like you can see here where there's some background that like kind of spilled over into like my shirt and the separation there. So I'm just gonna like clean some of that stuff up. Although if I'm using black as the background, for the most part, no one will know the difference. No one will be the wiser, but I will know. So I'm just gonna clean some of this up, just a little bit of this background that's behind me. And I'm just going to make it, you know, as clean as I can. And again, some people will prefer to be exact and use the pen tool. I just am more organic, and I don't care when I'm doing this. If I was doing official design work for a client, I might, you know, do it differently. But again, YouTube thumbnail, I can be a little bit more lenient. I think I'm being extra as it is in this case. So no biggie. So I'm just doing some cleanup work, and I won't bore you by going through this in granular detail because, you know, we need to move on to like the effects part of this, but I'm just doing some light cleanup work here to illustrate the point of how we use these tools and what your favorite YouTubers do. Some of them, again, a lot of them don't go as far as me in this stuff and everything like that, and they use very simplistic approaches in thumbnails. My brand is a little bit different, so I do it differently. Your mileage may vary. And just remember, even for me being this extra, it's not a guarantee that that will impact my views in like a significant enough way. It's just that I prefer to know that I produce the highest quality for everything that I'm doing within a certain amount of reason. You know, just not like diminishing returns or nothing if I can help it. And like I said, none of this guarantees that I will get more views, but at least I know whatever I get, that I know that I feel like I worked for it. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Take that with a grain of salt. Let's see. Yeah. And whoops. Clean up there with the hat. Good enough. There are some other techniques I could be using here, and some of them theoretically, some people would say that they're faster. I just feel like I like doing things by eye sometimes. And then also for me, frankly, some of this for me is therapeutic. For me, just taking my time and working on something is actually less stressful than trying to use every shortcut or wizard technique or frequency separation or all the sliders. Or like sometimes I just like to do it organically and do it in a more granular fashion than some other people might do, to do it quote unquote what they feel is the correct way. I just like, I do things my way, and I do things the way that I like, that just fit with my personality. But again, you just, you know, you do it the way you like and the way that works for you. There are just certain things that feel right. And sometimes you're doing it not because it's effective or efficient, but because it's what you're happy with. And sometimes that matters, especially if you're going to do this a lot. If you're going to do something like this a lot, learning to be happier with your process or whatever feels mentally healthier for you is kind of important, and it's overshadowed sometimes in the community by results. I don't like the idea of getting results at the expense of your emotional stability. So again, grain of salt. And I'll just bring in just enough of that back. And that feels right. Okay. So I've done most of the cleanup work here that I think matters. There's probably just a little bit more I could do. Let's see if there's any more of the hat that I need versus don't need. Okay. Feel like I can clean that up here like this, like that. That's probably clean enough there. All right. Now, again, when I make my background black, almost none of that feels like it would have mattered, but it will later. It will later. So the next thing I usually do is I go to filter, sharpen, and I go to smart sharpen, and then I move my sliders around. Usually I have it set up in a certain way, and I'll just, like, you know, get it reasonably sharp. And then if that doesn't feel like enough, especially around the eyes, I might go back in and I literally might just go ahead and on the photo, I might actually just go back in and then just get super sharp on the eyes. And then sometimes a little bit around the nose and mouth. And again, it's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be somewhat efficient. So I just did that. And then that carries over to this. And then you can see the eyes are considerably sharper. And that's really all I care about here. We're not doing perfection. The next thing I do is I'll take, usually for me, this is just me, is I'll create a new layer for backlighting. and we'll just call this backlight. And what I might do is I might take like a 20% brush, get it kind of big, and then I'll put a little bit of white behind me. You might go to 30%. And actually, yeah. We'll do like 20%. Nope, we have to soften that brush. By the way, make sure you change your brush back and you like make it soft. And if you wanted a certain shape, you make it a certain shape. But yeah, I feel like that's just enough of a hint there, maybe 10%. Yeah, so I'll create a little bit of this artificial backlight, just a tad. And the thing is, I may not keep it. This is just me. This is just how I do things, guys. This is how I do things. Okay, so for me, I've started this process, and this like is creating some of my beginnings of my separation. So next I want to figure out my title. Like my title. Let's see. What is a good negative title I could come up with that's timely right now? Oh. This is going to be overly dramatic. This is just me being like dramatic, right? But that's the idea of this thumbnail to some extent. So like, here we go. Kevin, what's up? We've got Meet Kevin here. Did I hear overly dramatic? Yeah, Meet Kevin is one of the best YouTubers that I think I've ever seen. Very smart, very intelligent, not only about the YouTube algorithm, but just like human behavior, business, finance. Everybody should watch his channel. Man is literally the embodiment of work ethic. I think Kevin's up to like 3 videos a day right now. But yeah, in terms of creating like kind of dramatic tension with the typography here, this is something that I'm doing, and I'm adjusting the space between these because I don't need to be able to drive a truck between the space in this lettering here. So I'm using shortcut Control Alt and the up arrow, and that's letting me just move that typography up there faster. This is a concept called leading or letting in graphic design. Again, something you guys don't need to worry about if you're not going to be a professional designer. But again, look at how I'm framing this. There's just enough of me in there. Oh, wow. Kevin with the $100 super chat. Okay, that was way too nice. Didn't ask for that, LOL. But it's the truth, man. Thank you, Kevin, and you keep up the great work as well. Like, Kevin's the embodiment of work ethic, everybody. I'm not even joking. But yeah, so we've got some tension here. And I think this is working so far. And this is very simple. But I can take this further. This is very simple, but I can take this much further. Now, a lot of you already know that I have this, this YouTube face thing that I made, and you could just use an emoji. Some of you will just use an emoji because I made this graphic myself in Photoshop. But by throwing in this YouTube face that I made in Photoshop, you see how that immediately changes the entire tone of this. Now, again, I can angle this differently with the transform tool. I think angling it in this direction is actually a good idea. And you can see I'm creating depth here with putting it behind me. So it's a matter of making intentional choices, and then I'm sizing it a certain way. It's making intentional choices about where everything is positioned. Everything. So again, this is what I'm doing that makes even a simple thumbnail like this really powerful. Now, again, I use that backlighting, but I want this to be even more dramatic, so I think we need some red. Now, I know a lot of people are like, the red might, be like they're over it or whatever, but I think that I can create more tension with some of this red backlighting. And I'm just going to try to not overdo it. I'm going to move my brush down to more like a 10%. I want to keep some of that black in there as well. but I'm going to do this to make it dramatic and make it feel sinister. I want it to feel like something is wrong and it needs to be discussed. I want to create that emotion. So you can see how I'm using color and color psychology here to my advantage. And you see what that did? Guys, look at what that did. Like, that dramatically just made this thumbnail feel more raw and like something is like terribly wrong with YouTube or the algorithm or something. Now, these dots, these ellipses, let's see if it works better with that. Let's just experiment. Is it better with it? Is it better without it? I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe with it, but I think maybe more space. So I'm just going to do that. And so there you go. Maybe I move it up just a little bit. Just a little bit. And there, that creates some tension. And let's pull back a little bit of that space. So you see, again, we're tweaking. We're tweaking real time. No one makes just a perfect thumbnail out of thin air. No one makes a perfect thumbnail out of thin air, just like that. We sit here and we use these things. We use the ellipses to create more tension, to create more anxiety, to be like, dear YouTube. And, you know, we frame me and we have the perfect pose for this. We have something that's conveying frustration. We have something that's conveying displeasure, anxiety. And then we're mirroring that further with this YouTube emoji, you know, and we're really driving that home. And the thing is, we only have 3 elements here and we're not beating anyone over the head with this. You see? And you can see how effective this would be. So again, it stands out. It all works. Let me just darken a little bit of this behind me here just to create more depth. And so we're being subtle. We're being subtle, but we're being impactful. And what do? We have only 3 elements in here. We have me, we have the emoji, and we have the text. But what do? We created foreground, background, and middle ground because we have backlighting. We have a solid color, but we have some backlighting and we have some transitional energy there. And then we have our emoji, but we have me on top of that emoji. And so it's creating depth. And then we have a drop shadow with that emoji. We're also creating depth. And the thing is, we can add a drop shadow to our text and create just slightly more tension there. The cleanness there is fine. But if we add even just a little bit of a drop shadow, a hint of a drop shadow to that, and the thing is, we don't have to have that drop shadow be totally black. We can make that drop shadow be a very deep, maybe like reddish kind of thing, just so that there's a little bit more blending there. No one will know the difference, but it's subtle. But boom, we're making this stronger, little by little. Like little by little. And this was meant to be like a masterclass. This is meant to be like a workshop, a real workshop. That's why I called it a live workshop. But this used simple techniques. I didn't do anything advanced, you guys. I didn't do anything advanced. You can use any background removal tool that you want, and you can remove yourself from a background. So that's like part of our step number 1. You can sharpen your image. You can use any tool you want to sharpen an image after you remove the background. Then you can use any emoji you want, get good text, and then in my case, the painting and backlighting is a more Photoshop specific thing. But if you don't have the painting, the ability to paint a background like I did in Photoshop, for whatever reason, if you're not using Photoshop, if you're not using Affinity or Photopea, then maybe you can use an existing background gradient in something like Canva, and you might be able to do that. So just kind of think of that. Just kind of think about what you can do to put yourself in this position. Because again, I made a very, very simple thumbnail from scratch. And the only element, the only asset that I had that, you know, like was pre-made was my YouTube emoji custom. But you can grab any emoji, you can grab stock images, you can do that. And, you know, that will make a difference. So like I said, if you don't have Photoshop, you can use GIMP. You could, but again, Photoshop's $10 a month, but you can use GIMP for free. You can use photop.com for free. It won't be as powerful, but it's pretty close. You can use Pixlr. You can use Affinity Photo, buy it one time for $50. You can do the best you can with Canva and get kind of close to this. So, these are things you are fully capable of doing. And then with the typography, you may not have a bunch of paid fonts like me. I go to myfonts.com. You can go to dafont.com, 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 and you can get a bunch of free fonts. They won't be as good, or you can use what comes on your computer. So again, those things are all things you can do. This is super straightforward. But again, this thumbnail is almost like a Jarvis thumbnail or a thumbnail from a lot of the big commentary channels. This thumbnail is actually close to like a thumbnail that I've seen on PewDiePie's YouTube channel. PewDiePie is a great Photoshop creator. This is close to that. This thumbnail is comparable to any of those things that you've seen from some of the biggest YouTubers. So you can still do a quality thumbnail with some very basic skills. And again, even if you're a graphic designer, you won't always make perfect thumbnails. But that's because you have to understand YouTube thumbnail psychology is not the same as traditional graphic design work. YouTube thumbnail psychology is about simple communication. So by saying, "Dear YouTube," I might actually use this thumbnail for something. "Dear YouTube," this is like, people are like, oh, what's Roberto going to say criticizing YouTube? Or is he going to tell them how to fix the platform? Or is he complaining about this thing that I'm mad about, that thing that I'm mad about? This creates curiosity, tension, tonality, all those things. And again, this is the most basic version of this thumbnail. But wait, there's more. There's more. Watch this. I'm going to use a tool called Curves. And I'm going to create even more drama and more tension by adjusting the curves lighting on this. And now that pops. So before, this feels flat. After, oh, that pops. Look at that. One adjustment layer, the curves adjustment layer, and making a small tweaks. I've said it, Daryl Eves has said it, small tweaks. Look at what we get from just that. Look at before, feels flat. Look at after. Boom. Just like that. We instantly have a better thumbnail. Just like that. So small of a change, and it mattered. So small of a change, and yet it mattered. Just look at that. Insane, right? So let's review here. All I did was cut myself out of a background, paint a new background, sharpen up my photo, drop in an emoji, and add some text. That's it. And I made what might be an ideal or perfect YouTube thumbnail that would get me clicks. Because again, if you guys saw this and there was like a big change in YouTube, or there was a big controversy where creators were angry about something, like let's say monetization change or something like that, this thumbnail probably would get your click. This thumbnail would probably get your click. Now, again, I could tweak this a little bit more. There are things that, I could do that make it a little bit more flattering for my skin or something like that. I could get super elaborate here. I can go in and I could even Photoshop and I could clean up the dark circles around my eyes, or get rid of some of my pimples or something like that. But again, some of that's overkill, because the reality is it's going to look this small on somebody's phone, and yet it's enough to make them click on it. If they're mad at YouTube, this is enough to make somebody click. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day, is getting the click. So these things really can be powerful when you do them right. So Bree says, thank you for all your work so far. You're easy to understand and help me a lot when it comes to YouTube stuff. Absolutely. Serena Sparkle. I think I've seen your stuff, Serena. Sienna. Why did I say Serena? Sorry. Sienna Sparkle. Your name sounds so familiar. I do some of this to my thumbnails. Dope. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, this is, and then again, this is kind of like, this is a basic approach to doing thumbnails, but it works. And you've seen it work on some of the biggest channels. You've seen it work. You've seen even PewDiePie does stuff like this. Sometimes he'll take it further, sometimes not. Sometimes he'll use things like the liquefy tool. But you know, this can help you. Oh, there's an echo? Wait, no, I'm not seeing that on my side. Are you guys hearing an echo in the audio or something? I think somebody was saying there was an echo. No echo? Okay. No echo? Oh, well, there goes Amazon. there goes Alexa. So yeah. Yeah, the Adobe subscription stuff doesn't bother me. Someone's bringing that up. The Adobe subscription stuff doesn't bother me. And it's each their own on that. Because here's the thing. For the business that I run, and even for being a YouTuber, buying the whole Adobe suite, which I pay for myself, and I pay for it for 2 people on my team. So I actually pay more than most people because I'm paying for 3 people's Adobe subscription. The thing is, for me, it's worth every penny. 1, because of the money that I make doing this. 2, because it's the best, fastest, most capable tool there is for me and for my team and the people I want to work with, and the workflow that we have. Workflow is everything. No amount of penny pinching and saving money on software would ever get me back an ounce of the time, especially if anyone on my team or myself has to learn something new or lose even one feature. It is not worth it to me. I will always spend money because I'd rather save time than money. Time is too valuable to want to save money instead. But that's a philosophy that I've always had, and I had that philosophy when I was broke too. So it's not what people think. I will always spend money if it means saving time, because I can make more money. I don't know how much time I have to lose, so can't be bothered. That being said, when something matters, whether it's like, look, perfect camera gear is more expensive, and I've spent more on that than I will ever spend on subscriptions at this point. I will always end up this stuff to do perfect photography, perfect video. It costs money, and having the best tools to edit what comes out of it is what my priority is. So I will never worry about pinching the pennies if it comes to having the best product possible, the best time, the best resource available, and the saving of my time. And it's for the sake of being able to create the best experience possible for the viewer. So there are cheaper ways to get around this. And I told you guys, if you don't have the budget to do that, which I respect, there are other tools. But the minute you make any money, I put my money back into my tools to save time. I put my money back into my tools. I put my money back into my brand. I put my money back into my channel to create the best experience for the audience, to create the best thing for my brand partners like StreamYard and Tubebuddy, to create the best content I possibly can. How do you save your thumbnails if you need to go back and edit it? Really simple. With Photoshop, I just click Control-Shift-S and I save it. And I'll name this Dear YouTube, and it's saved. And I have my choice. I can save it to my computer, or I can save it to the cloud, or both. So very easy. And that's why I can bring up all of my other thumbnails, and I can adjust them on the fly as needed. I can tweak them. Sometimes I'll make more than one thumbnail for the same concept. I'll do A/B testing. You can do A/B testing with TubeBuddy, or you can use Tubalytics, and you can pay for that, and then have humans test your thumbnails for you and tell you feedback. So, you know, that's something that I look at. Human feedback matters. Even in this live stream, I've kind of been A/B testing a little bit with you guys on what you will and won't like. Time is the most valuable thing. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so like this is how I approach thumbnails. Is I remove myself from the background, I sharpen myself up, I might do some color correction with a curves layer or something else. I might sharpen my eyes. I create my own background layer from scratch, or I'll use stock photo, but I usually like to do my own stuff from scratch. And then I will use emojis, logos, or symbols that matter. And you can see that regardless of how simple or how complex I make my thumbnails, that is a recurring pattern and a style that you can expect from me. And so I make my thumbnails as impactful as possible. And the other thing, again, remember I told you, you can use familiar elements and themes to help make your stuff recognizable. And also, if for me, for building brand, I put myself in my thumbnails. Now, like I said earlier, for things like talking head, tutorials, and tips, it makes sense to do that. For other things, if you were doing a product, I'd make it all about the product. And I would maybe 50-50 that, or make it all about the product. Terry says, love your work. Thank you, Terry. For this is a PSD file format. This is Photoshop. So yeah, it's a PSD file format. Workflow management. Yes, indeed. Yep. So let's see. I think I covered the main things that I wanted to hit for you guys. I think the things that I covered that I absolutely wanted to hit was I talked a lot about software options, text versus no text, face versus no face, photography, posing, typography, color theory, some basic design principles, Photoshop workflow. And so I think that I covered the majority of things that we could talk about when it comes to thumbnails. So I guess at this point, the only thing really that we can do is I can answer a few questions before we go. So I can answer a couple of your questions before we go for the next couple of minutes. The replay will be available. My throat's getting hoarse from doing this so long. But yeah, there will be a replay available. And so I definitely would encourage you guys to watch the replay of this workshop, because I think it's super, super helpful. I'll try and timestamp it later. We'll see if I can get to that. But yeah, I think I covered it all. So, I mean, do you have any questions? If you guys have questions, now's the time to get them in. Once again, thank you for everybody's super chat, especially Meet Kevin with that $100 super chat. That totally made my day. I was already enjoying the stream a lot, and I always love hanging with you guys, but just seeing somebody that I respect that much in the community come in, and then he didn't have to super chat. He could have just said hi, but Kevin's great. He does a really good job. He's a solid YouTube channel. I think you guys can learn a lot from him. I think he has a YouTube course. I haven't bought it, but I would definitely say that if there's somebody from the community probably has a solid understanding of YouTube that could buy a course from, Kevin would definitely be up there. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Digital Underground Gaming says, how important are logos in a thumbnail? So it depends. If you're covering a video game or a franchise or something like that, it could be important for recognition of that. I try to make modifications and alter it, and then just make it a very small part of things for the purposes of fair use. But it's something that, in the case of something like a video editing tutorial like this, puts it into context for the viewers, and it makes them say, oh yeah, this thing is about the thing that I care about, and I immediately recognize that. So if they don't recognize, or if they read very little, they'll recognize a logo. And that's just kind of how it is, especially something that's a very familiar brand. Another thing, by the way, is sometimes a good practice, if you're like me, with your skin tones, sometimes you'll want to use a curves layer. And then you'll want to go to if you're me, you might want to warm it up slightly, but not too much. And then use a clipping mask. And then, yeah. So there's just little things sometimes that you have to do to adjust for your skin tones. And it's not always perfect. And I'm just speeding through it in this particular case, but like I feel like that looks slightly better. Wait a minute. Let me do it this way. Yeah, it's slightly better. Nope, that's too much. That's about right. So like, yeah, just your mileage may vary on that. So yeah. Let's see. Do you have a code or anything for the font site you use? I don't think I do. Can you make a video like this for designing Pinterest pins? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of people in my community that are super interested in that. Someone who might be able to do that though is Catherine Manning. She was like super into Pinterest before YouTube, and she's really good at it. What's the biggest flaw that makes a thumbnail inadequate? No ability to connect to a viewer. If you put text in it that can't be read, if it doesn't make sense for the title, those would be the things. Like, if the thumbnail can't stop someone from scrolling and getting attention, then it's not doing its job. If it gets attention, but it doesn't like convey what the video is about, then it's not doing its job. If it doesn't work with the title, then it's not doing its job. If it's hard to read or is confusing, then it's not doing its job. Brandon says, you mentioned in your last live stream that you'll have a series on releasing budget gear and hacks for noobs when that's coming out. It's like, I'm not sure. We'll see. For fun, Roberto, give us a 90-second review of The Mandalorian. All right, with no spoilers, The Mandalorian is a dope space western set in the Star Wars universe, and we meet all of the most interesting and unsavory characters in the galaxy, and it is a fun, compelling story full of adventure, mystery, and all things Star Wars. So that's probably a 30-second review, but there you go. What do you think I should focus on in thumbnails for the reaction channel? Getting people's attention, probably through a facial expression. Roberto, do you have any input on the 16mm f1.4 lens for recording talking head videos? Yeah, it's actually a really solid lens, but you have to see how you feel about how it works with your face. But the 16 is really good, but I feel like it borders on being too wide for some people's facial structure. It's not as flattering. So your mileage may vary with that, but I like it. A lot of people use it. It's pretty good for live streams as well. Right now I'm using a 16 to 35mm f4.0, and I think that this is a really good zoom lens for live streaming that gives you options, and so I like it. But yeah, the 16mm is good. I've used it on photo shoots and then with some video. So I think it's a good little lens. Very affordable, very nice, fast lens. Very sharp. I like it. Roberto, how important is showing one's face? I was told being older, not good to show. It depends on your niche. It depends on how confident and comfortable you are. There are plenty of people who do it who aren't necessarily conventionally what most people consider to be attractive, and it works out just fine. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't force it. It's just down to whatever you're comfortable with, make it work to the best of your ability. Is it more cost effective to just purchase Photoshop? You can't purchase Photoshop. It is a subscription. And again, if your channel's monetized, it's worth every penny. If it's not, I could see an argument. But if you're trying to be a full-time YouTuber, I don't see a reason not to use Photoshop. But if you are just so against subscriptions, which if you become a YouTuber and you go into business, by the time you end up paying taxes, as a YouTuber, by the time you end up doing a lot of other stuff as a YouTuber, subscription models are paying like $10 a month or $50 a month. Something's going to be the least of the expenses or worries you have. So like, there's no, like, if people think that they're just going to get out of subscription models and they're going to be a full-time YouTuber, I hate to break it to you, it's not going to happen. And your biggest subscription as a YouTuber is going to be your taxes. That's got to be a subscription you don't get to opt out of. But if you're on a budget, which I recognize and I understand, I already told you about all the free tools. And I told you that if you want to buy something, buy Affinity Photo. Buy Affinity Photo. It's okay. It's pretty good. It's very strong for the price. I just don't think it's a true Photoshop killer. And I stand by that. And I don't think they're, because they're not a subscription model, they're not getting the kind of money they need to keep innovating. They're doing okay though. But I don't like the idea of being with something that's not going to be around. So I'd rather rely on a tool, use a tool, and I'd rather pay a subscription and know that that tool and that company will be around forever than get really attached. I've gotten software before that I bought and I was like, yeah, and I own this forever. And then the software stopped being supported. And then there was a OS update to Mac or Windows. And because the software hadn't been supported in years or the company went out of business, me owning it and my ownership and I don't pay subscriptions, it didn't matter because now the thing I got used to was dead in the water the minute there's a operating system update. So I don't care about subscriptions. I care about convenience. But again, your mileage may vary. And I felt that way even when I wasn't making this kind of money. I felt that way. I just had to, I need what I need. I want what I want. And I always just want convenience and speed because I want my time. Does affiliate hurt a newer channel before getting 4,000? If you need money, I don't worry about it. Most people aren't going to go to the description, so I don't worry about it. Put a disclaimer, but they don't look at that for your monetization. They don't care as long as your affiliate links are going to legitimate websites and companies, you'll be perfectly fine. There's nothing that hurts you there. Roberto, when you were starting to hustle on YouTube and you were working or going to school or whatever, how much time do you think you spent working on YouTube a week? I was working full-time as a freelancer. YouTube was different back then, so I don't think it's relevant to today. What I would say is it's not about how much time you work on YouTube. It's about how effective you make use of that time. So it's not about, a lot of people keep thinking it's about the hours they put in. It's about how you use them. I showed you even today how if you use the time effectively, you can make something really strong in just a few minutes. There are YouTube videos I've made where I spent the least amount of time and they had the biggest impact on my channel. There are live streams that have done that, which means it's in real time versus the time to produce an edited, polished video. I think people overestimate how much time they're putting into things versus how effective they are with the time that they're best utilizing. There are a lot of people who do YouTube part-time and still work full-time jobs. There are a million subscribed channels. They don't want to leave their career behind. So you have people like Scott Manley, who works full-time for one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and he's like a million subscribed channel and probably makes really good money on YouTube altogether. But he does it as a hobby and he does it part-time. Ali Abdaal, he is still a doctor and he makes good money on YouTube and probably makes more money from YouTube than being a doctor from his YouTube income report. And he's advocating for the part-time YouTuber thing of like, keep a career if you love your career or your job and be a successful part-time YouTuber, but make a full-time income. He's an advocate for that. I run multiple business ventures. You could argue I'm a part-time YouTuber because people don't, because they're like, well, you have an internet-based business. You have this, you have that. So it's all the same, but I don't spend 40 hours a week on YouTube even now. Theoretically, if I did, I'd be a bigger channel. The biggest channels on YouTube, a lot of them do go all in. Dave 2D still works at a big tech company. He's at 2 million subscribers as a tech YouTuber. Marquez became a big tech YouTuber despite doing it as a student for the majority of his career. So it's, a lot of people talk about quality over quantity, except when they talk about the relationships they build with their audience because they want big numbers. And they don't talk about quality time over quantity of time when it comes to the time they dedicate to doing their YouTube channel. That's why I don't believe in the rhetoric or the mantra of quality over quantity, because people loosely apply it where they want. It's not a universal axiom. And when it comes to YouTube, it's not even true when it comes to your content. And that's been proven time and time again. And it's a social media algorithm. It's not like quality. What it doesn't decide what quality is. The audience does. So that's like, how much time do I think I spent working on YouTube a week? I can't even tell you. I don't even know. It certainly wasn't 40 hours though. It certainly wasn't probably even 20 hours. It just wasn't, like, because that wouldn't have worked for me at the time. If it was, then I did that part on the weekend when I did. But when I started at 10K, I was only doing a video a week and I was doing a tutorial. So I was probably spending like 2 hours a week, and I got to 10,000 subscribers doing that. So I was spending maybe 2 to 5 hours a week, and I got to 10,000 subscribers in 11 months. Did the same thing again for a year, got to 20,000. When I was still freelancing and not making money on YouTube. Funny story, for the first 3 years of YouTube, all the way to 100,000 subscribers, guys, I made no AdSense money because I was making like $300 a month on AdSense. And then I got swooped up by an MCN that got me into a 50% ad revenue split after the 300, because all the big YouTubers advocated for YouTube NCN deals. And so when I was at 14,000 subscribers, an MCN came and promised me all this stuff, and in exchange for taking half my ad revenue. And I was a small YouTuber with no experience. I didn't have any big YouTubers I was talking to, nobody to tell me any different. And since all the big YouTubers were with networks, they wouldn't have told me any different at the time. A lot of them didn't know any better either. And so, they took 50% of my money for nothing for like a 2-year contract. And since my channel got bigger because I went daily, they were taking that money all the way up to like me getting 100,000 subscribers and starting to make decent money off of the ads. I was making my money from my client work, my public speaking, my consulting, definitely a lot in affiliate revenue at the time. But my first 3 years on YouTube, I made no YouTube AdSense money hardly. And even when I got my first 100,000 subscribers, I was still in a deal where 50% of my money was getting taken for no reason because they weren't delivering anything to me as a multi-channel network. And you hear now you hear everyone talk about multi-channel networks being scams. I didn't have that benefit of people telling me that when I got started. That might even be the real reason that I actually end up starting giving YouTube advice, to be honest with you, in any way, besides people asking me questions and seeing my channel grow pretty fast. And then my background in social media marketing, it might have been the things that, dang, if somebody had just told me this, I would have saved time, or I would have saved money, or I wouldn't have gotten scammed or whatever. It might be all the little things where I didn't know any better and nobody told me that made me decide to help this community and do some of my content, not all of it, but some of my content is YouTube help content, might specifically be because there was nobody to tell me anything when I was a small YouTuber. And I had to learn everything the hard way. And I got some results that a lot of other people who'd been at this for years didn't get. And since I didn't even know that was true, I thought that everyone was doing what I was doing. I didn't even know, because I didn't talk to YouTubers. For like the first 3 years of my YouTube career, I didn't talk to other YouTubers. A lot of you don't know that. The YouTube community was very different when I got started. It was very different in like 2013 through 2016. It is not what you know it to be today, unless you were in that clique of those early YouTubers from way back in the day in 2006, 2005, 2008, 2009. If you were in with those early YouTubers, you might have had a different thing, regardless of your size or whatever. But like the YouTube community was very different than what it is today. And back then, remember, there were no YouTube help channels back then. So it was a very different time. So I made like nothing. I made like nothing at the beginning, except for like affiliate money, which is why I advocate for that, and freelancing. I made affiliate money. I made freelancing, public speaking, consulting. I wasn't even really pushing merch at the time. I had some. I wasn't doing brand deals except for getting free products. On occasion, I did a few brand deals, but not a lot. When I started, it wasn't really something where you make like a lot of money in AdSense. And for a lot of YouTubers today, that's still true. A lot of YouTubers don't make a lot of money in AdSense, honestly. Even if they get millions of views, a lot of them don't. And that's why I decided to be super, super transparent about all of this. It's because people just don't know any better when they're a small YouTuber. And you can get taken advantage of, like I did with an MCN deal or any number of things, or just do something wrong and never know any better. Or you could be doing something right and have no idea and think that, oh, this is how it must be for everybody, which is what my situation was. So, yeah, long-winded answer to a question like, yeah, I didn't spend nearly the amount of time that some people spent on this, even from a career standpoint, to get a lot of the results I got. And even now, I would theoretically be bigger if YouTube was all I do, but I don't believe in that for me. I believe in that for some other people, or it might be the thing they're most passionate about. I'm older. I didn't grow up in the YouTube culture, so it's like, it wasn't something that I'd like, my dream's to be a YouTuber. I always wanted to be independent, have my own business, travel. I love photography. I love that this frees me up to do whatever I want, buy whatever camera gear I want. Like, I've always wanted to build businesses. I've always kind of wanted to teach people things. I've always wanted to help other starving artists. So that's what I did. And that's what I built my businesses around, was what could I do to help creative people to thrive and to be the new professional class. I want it to not be looked down on to be a creative person. You want to be a designer, you want to be a photographer, you want to be a performer, you want to be a dancer, you want to write plays, you want to do any of that. I want that to be something that is profitable and is respected in the world of careers and business. Hell, even if you want to be a gamer, I want you to be able to be a professional esports gamer, and I want people to not look down on it. I want them to look at you with the same level of respect that they look at a doctor or a lawyer or a plumber or an electrician. And I think that that's valid. Like, I don't know why it wouldn't be. So for me, just understanding that maybe gives you a little bit of a perspective on how I look at this whole thing. I never got into any of this to be a big YouTuber or for fame or for any of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with if that's like your thing. I just don't think it's realistic for most people. So I just think of it differently. I think of it differently because I started with nothing. And, that's what it is. Firefly said something. Where's the super chat? Can I find it? See another one. There's a different one. What mic do I use? I use the Shure SM7B. It's the same microphone as Joe Rogan. It's about $399. It's a really good mic. I run it to a cloud lifter and through the Rodecaster Pro audio deck. So that's what I'm doing. Firefly says, where do you edit your videos? Because I've been editing videos on my phone and it takes a lot of time. I want something fast. I edit my videos on the desktop computer that I'm using for live streaming. It's a custom build that I did on my own, and it's good for editing and it's good for gaming. I have another machine that would be good for that as well over there that I built. I built my PCs custom. I've been doing that since I was a kid though. Even when I was broke, I used to just get all these parts, or I used to flip stuff on eBay and cannibalize these parts, but I've been building custom PCs. But I started the YouTube channel on a $450 laptop that used to literally burn my lap when I would edit. So I think that a laptop is good. I mean, some people edit on their phone. Star Wars Theory edited on his phone for years and grew his channel from nothing with a smartphone. Mr. Beast did the same thing. But I would edit on a laptop or a desktop if you can. I just think it's more practical, and it'll speed things up. It'll speed things up. What editing app do I use? I use Adobe Premiere Pro for just about all my editing. I've been doing some more stuff with After Effects lately too, which is really dope. And I used to be really into VFX a lot. I was gonna get into that industry, but I was too broke to pursue it in a way. Back in the day. For doing the live streams, however, I'm using StreamYard, which is completely free, and it is literally the best tool when it comes to live streaming, and it's simple to use. And if you want the paid version, it's affordable. So they are the sponsor of our live stream. They make all this possible, and it's been the easiest streaming experience I've ever had. So thank you to them for sponsoring. So I'm going to paste them into the chat here. But I also want to bring it up because, again, please sign up for free. You'll see exactly the experience that I'm having with it and why it works so well. And it makes these live streams better, and they support content creators. So get it for free. Link is in the description, and I just put it into the chat. However, I have literally used $700 streaming software that would crash on me in the middle of these streams, make it difficult to bring in other people for interviews, all this stuff. And StreamYard's better whether it's free or paid than that. We also use it on my podcast, and also the podcast I do with my friends Romina and Audrey, the No Assembly Required podcast. So like I use StreamYard basically at this point every single day for something. We even use it in my coaching group to do some things where we bring members in to ask questions. So I use it in my business. I use it on my YouTube channel. I use StreamYard, for all these things because it's just a better tool. And again, if you want, don't take my word for it. It's free. You can try it yourself. Link in the description. MCN stands for multi-channel network. So basically, multi-channel networks used to promise to do a lot of stuff to help YouTubers, and they would say, "Oh, and we'll just take a small portion of your ad revenue, and we'll do all these things for you," which they would never do. And so it was a big thing. And there's a lot of if you look up videos about it, you'll see horror story after horror story after horror story. So yeah. Sienna says, yeah, that's why I left my network I was with for years. Yeah. The network I left ended up owing me like $4,000 by the time I left. They've paid back a little bit of it. They haven't paid back all of it. So just imagine that. Imagine if I were a YouTuber. And many of the YouTubers that they had were international, so they couldn't, they had to be with an MCN because they couldn't bank in a way that allowed them to get direct deposits from YouTube, and YouTube doesn't do PayPal. So all those international YouTubers were really screwed in that situation. So it was a big deal. But imagine if I really, really, really desperately needed that $4,000 that they didn't get me, and then they started chunking it out. Literally a year later, more than a year later, that they owed me that money. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Can you make a video of the best video editing apps? Absolutely, that's the plan. If you can tell, I have some plans for exactly such a thing. Video coming soon, very soon. Yeah. So I will be making a video of that. What mic do I use? Yep. The Rode Caster Pro with the Shure SM7B. Yep. Why do a lot of big channels not make too much money from AdSense? Because YouTube AdSense is not every view is not worth the same amount of money, which a lot of people don't realize that because they don't have a background in advertising and social media, which I do. I'm also an advertiser as a small business. So I have a lot of information and insights that not every content creator would have. Which is not a criticism of anybody, by the way. It's just literally the way it is. So if we look here, I'll show you guys. Again, I have a video planned for this. So this is just a sneak peek of something I'm already planning to do. Let me see if I can make this any bigger. Hang on. Maybe that looks better. Actually, we can do it. Do it this way. There we go. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. Okay. So let's look at what was this? Let's just look at December or something. Or we can look at November. Let's look at November. All right. So looking at November, I think you guys should be able to see this pretty clearly or reasonably. So if we look at November, I did almost 5,000 in ads. Now in November and December, ad revenue tends to be really good, but I got my typical ish amount of views. Excuse me. But revenue wise. So the reason I make more is I have a high CPM. And for me, my CPM actually declined slightly for whatever reason during that month, whatever. It's fine. I'm not going to complain at all in any meaningful way. But I did really well overall for like November, especially since I don't think I uploaded a lot. Because like I've just had a lot going on in real life, and a lot of people have. 2020 completely derailed me because of COVID, to be real with you guys. And I got really depressed for like a while. And there were like 2 whole months where I didn't upload to YouTube, but they were separated months, mind you. And there were a couple of months where I uploaded very little at all. Like COVID just wrecked me mentally and emotionally. And I think it was that way for a lot of people. Like 2020 was just a nightmare that just seemed to go on and on and on in so many ways. Even though I was doing fine financially, emotionally, 2020 was just like garbage. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way. So when you look at it, I did really well in November, and I do really well overall in my opinion, but it's the CPM. It's that I don't have to get as many views to make that kind of money. Most YouTubers that are in entertainment will tell you that if they get 1 million views, in their entertainment, if they're not financial channels, business channels, so on and so forth, then they're not doing great on CPMs. Now, creators like Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin have been super transparent about their CPMs, and theirs are even higher than mine. So for this amount of views, a financial channel would get double the money. On 500,000 views, a finance channel would probably get $10,000. I get that on like 1 million views. They'll get like 20,000, 15, 20, like 15, 20 on 1 million views, or per million views. So it's really good money in the finance niche. I'm in business and online, and so mileage varies there, but like I do all right. But big YouTubers, entertainment channels, people I know, clients of mine, on a million views, I've seen entertainment channels get 500, 1,000, 1,500 if they're lucky. And that's assuming they're not demonetized on those videos or something, or assuming they didn't put something in that got copyright claim, because they entertain people. Sometimes because that low hanging fruit, you do things that get you demonetized or get copyright claimed. And so you don't even make money, you do it at a loss. Mr. Beast even said his YouTube channel operates at a loss at this point. So, he's supplementing by other means. So again, he's literally considered the most relevant YouTuber, and he is, and he's mad successful, but he's operating his channel at a loss instead of at a profit. I want you to put that in perspective. Views ain't everything. So, but again, I would play the game differently if I were 18, 19, 20, 21, 25. I'm 36. I'm playing conservatively. So when you look at that, it's different. When you look at the way a video works on like my channel in terms of like CPMs, it could be vastly different. It can be like a $20 or something CPM. Now, on an entertainment channels notoriously have told you $2 to $5 CPMs. So I'll put it to you like this. My YouTube channel with a very high CPM on the earning side has an RPM of about $10 per 1,000 views, which means I make a penny per view. The average YouTuber makes a tenth of a penny per view. And the positioning of what is advertiser friendly, what certain ad markets are like and valued at, is what makes that difference. But I've made videos all about this if you care about that. I literally have made videos dissecting the highest paid niches in YouTube, the CPM values, what makes your channel more or less value. I've done like video after video after video on this topic. People just watch stuff on like getting views and subscribers. I make so much content about making money online, the reality of YouTube. To be honest with you, a lot of you would make the same amount of money faster doing freelance work instead of trying to get popular on YouTube, because it takes forever and it doesn't always work out. And even if you got views, if you're not in a niche like mine, you're not going to make this kind of money on those kind of views. You'll make $500 on the same amount of views that I'm making this amount of money on in a lot of cases. If like a lot of you probably have this many views or more views than me, and you might be making $1,000, $500, $1,500 on the same views. And that's just how it is. That's how advertising is. Not all views are equal because they don't reach the same audience. Your audience may not be my audience. And so that would matter, and those things would impact the type of ads they get served. And so my audience is older than most YouTubers. Most YouTubers have audiences that largely are the 13 to 17 and 18 to 24-year-old demographic because it's the biggest population on YouTube. If I want views, I'd have to target these people if I want views. But advertisers don't spend as much money on people that are under 18 or 18 to 25 as they would spend on people who are over 25 and up to 55. Advertisers will spend more money to reach an older, affluent audience. So even if I lose on views, I will win on monetization. 5 to 1, 10 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1 on a YouTuber more popular than me, but they get enough views to make up the difference, and they supplement that with sponsorships because of their popularity. I go a completely different business model, and I'm not as reliant on the YouTube treadmill like I talked about earlier. I'm diversified, and I'm building e-commerce brands even outside of my niche with the information, knowledge I have, and investment. And I'm also in the process of building other channels, but also going into partnerships where I have equity in other channels. So think of it like Shark Tank. So I'm doing things very differently than a conventional YouTuber for a very specific reason that I think is long-term more profitable and more practical, and will be easier to maintain without having to worry about aging out of an audience or aging out of a demo. But again, this is all a tease for a much bigger video. And like I said, I can do a whole stream that's just the business side of YouTube, so let's not spoil that. Amateur Decorating says, you're describing my MCN experience to a T. Yep. Yeah, they be like that. If you're going to spam the chat saying, read my donation, I'm literally just going to ban you from the stream. And I think I already read your donation in this case. But yeah, I like... BW1, what's up, buddy? I like how every live stream you do ends up breaking down into a YouTube business workshop. It's what I'm actually passionate about. Wouldn't Mr. Beast sponsorships make up for the demonetizations? According to him, in videos he's made and interviews he's made, no. Everyone's underestimating that. I look up to Mr. Beast. I love Mr. Beast. I've had conversations with him. Daryl Eves is a friend of mine. He's a mentor to him. He's involved in his business. But I'm telling you, no one can be Mr. Beast. No one can be Mr. Beast. And part of it is like Mr. Beast is the Amazon of YouTube. Mr. Beast is the Amazon of YouTube. It's a loss leader business model, and it's high risk, high reward. And nobody should try to do that aside from Mr. Beast. Most people won't succeed at it. Most people don't have the stomach for it. And it's high risk, high reward. And again, a real good way to get hurt in business would be to say, I'm going to go compete with Amazon. That's like, oh, good. That's just real. That's just real. So yeah. Now me, I do something very interesting. I make money on my videos, and I gain web traffic that goes in other directions, and I'm sufficiently positioned to actually be very good for a lot of certain specific sponsors because I have an audience that will invest in business resources, and so that puts me in a very good position. It's good brand equity, it's a good partnership, and then I go out of my way for them. So, I do think that I have a unique business model. And again, it's not the most profitable or biggest business model. I'm not like one of the richest YouTubers. It's not even close. But I'm a more realistic version of what is possible for somebody who does a lot on their own and may not be able to put 40 hours a week into YouTube. But I went skill based. I went skill based more than personality based, which for some people might feel like the bigger barrier to entry. But I would argue that if you're skill based, people don't have to be in love with you. They just have to find you reliable. I think it's easier to be reliable than it is to be likable, because likability is subjective where reliability is not. So it's a more conservative approach. But also, I think if you happen to be someone who's over 30, it's more realistic to play YouTube my way than the way that the most popular young YouTubers are. Like, if you're in this audience and you're like someone in their late 20s, early 30s, mid or late 30s, I'm trying to give you, or even someone who is 18 or 20, but you come from an underprivileged background, I'm trying to give you the most realistic approach to YouTube. It won't be the sexiest approach. It won't be the sexiest approach. It won't be the viral approach. It won't be the most popular, and it will not be shortcuts. It will be the long, slow, painful, patience road, but it's much more practical, realistic, achievable. It's based in common sense, common practice, and things that you can do with very little to start. If you don't have anything and you don't have resources, you don't have money, you don't have a lot of time, you may not even have may not think you have the personality for YouTube. If you watch my oldest videos, go watch my oldest videos after the stream. There's no way you could look at my oldest videos and think that I'd be a successful YouTuber or that I have the personality for YouTube. There's no way. My oldest videos are garbage, but it was the beginning of something. And it's important to start with where you are and what you have. And it's important to build upon your skills and build upon your confidence. And I want you to build upon your confidence. And I think the easiest and most reliable way to build confidence is by buckling down and developing a core set of skills that are useful to people and valuable in the market, and using those things to make what little money you can on the side, and then maybe make that your full-time gig, leave work, and then also be able to bring that to an audience who might benefit from it. And then at some point, you might develop some confidence and a little bit of charisma, and you might be a better communicator. But if you look at me and like Sean Cannell, we were horrible on camera and awkward and monotone, and we weren't entertaining at all. And we made it. Even Graham Stephan wasn't entertaining when he started, and he was awkward, and he believed for 2 years that he didn't have the personality to be a YouTuber, and look at him now. So everyone starts somewhere, and that's what I want to teach you. I want to teach you that everyone starts somewhere, and this is why the future of this channel is also a back to tutorials, and this is why today was a tutorial workshop. Today was a tutorial workshop and getting back to our basic skills and learning Photoshop and photo editing and photography and design, and I want more of the channel to be the foundation of building a lot of those skills. So I'm hoping you guys will watch the tutorial content and not just how to grow on YouTube stuff. I'm hoping you guys will watch the business content and not just the how to grow on YouTube stuff, because I really believe that a lot of you need skills, and you also need to become much more educated about business and money instead of believing that YouTube will answer all problems and that getting views is the answer to all problems, because it's not. So Kid74, thank you so much for the $50 super chat. I really appreciate the content you create every morning along with my cup of coffee. I listen to your videos like a podcast before I get my day going. Thank you for that. The podcast is coming back. I had to take a little break for a while. I have a video with interview with Gerald and Dunn that I need to release. I have another series of interviews with big YouTubers coming out soon for the podcast, but also we'll go back to the podcast live streams on Wednesday mornings. I hope I might do one on Monday morning, to be honest. But I'm really hoping that you guys will watch the tutorial videos and the business videos as much as you're watching the YouTube help videos, because your goal on YouTube is partly you want to make money, but there are faster ways to make money with skills, and you need skills to be a good YouTuber anyway, but you can also sell those skills and make money faster while you're waiting for YouTube to work out. And a lot of your favorite YouTubers did this. Sarah Dietschy did it. iJustine did it. Philip DeFranco did it. Like, a lot of people freelanced and made their money, or did voice acting, or did graphic design. They used the skills that they were using at their YouTube channel to make money working for other people, so that they didn't have to work a regular day job and could be more flexible. And then what a lot of people did, including Mr. Beast, is they took their money that they made from YouTube, and instead of buying nice things or nice clothes or putting in their pocket, they invest it back into their craft. They invest it back into their gear. They invest it back into their tools, their software, their resources. They held on to it. Some of them bought Bitcoin. And so, yeah, like I don't like spending money. I only invest it. I invested in you guys. I invested back into the channel. I invested into the community. I invested into my tools. I invested into myself. I don't spend money. I invest it one way or another. I invest in skills. I invest in assets. I invest in people. And so that's a lesson. Talk Finances to me says, I'm currently working on getting a more flexible 9-to-5 to have time to create more. That's a big one. And sometimes a skill can get you to a better 9-to-5. Like I tell people, you don't necessarily quit your 9-to-5 and go to YouTube. And I'll talk about this in the YouTube. Do you guys want next week for me to do a YouTube business stream? You guys want me to do that next week? Is that what we're doing next Sunday? Is next Sunday us doing a YouTube business stream? Is that what we're doing? Let me know in the chat. But what I will tell you before I go is you can use your extra money from YouTube and save up, get some really good savings, right? Like if you're making extra money on YouTube, what I'd like you to do is to get yourself like a good $1,000 in savings if you don't have it. And if you do have $1,000 in savings, I want you to use that extra YouTube money and get to like $10,000 in savings before you do anything else, so that you can have cushion, or you can get rid of debt and not have debt, because that's really helpful. And so you'd have that foundation. And so what I would tell you is, if you're making that kind of money and you got some savings, what you do is you don't quit your full-time job to do YouTube. You go and you apply to a better job, because it's easier to get a different position at another company than to get a promotion at the company you're at sometimes. So you go and you get a better paying job with a better paying salary that also is less stressful, maybe a little bit more freedom, or a nicer company, or has a better career path for you. And then if that's working out and you do another year on YouTube and it's working out, if you're in a position at your job and YouTube's working out, you're making all that extra money and you're getting more money from the job, you can save up more, pay down more debt, you can invest back in the channel, you can grow it, and you're like, oh, I'm still doing it. But like you keep thinking, oh, if I were full time, I'd make even more. You gotta hedge your bets. So now what you do is you try and see if you can get another raise. You know, stick it out another year or get a raise, or say, okay, with the money that we've saved up or the money I'm making from the day job, what I think I should do then is, if you don't own a house, I would say, and again, this is not financial advice, this is just what I would do. It's like, okay, I got the YouTube side hustle and that's making me a lot of money, and I've got the good day job, but I'm a little exhausted, but I think I can hang in there another year. Get into a mortgage, so that when you spend money on your living, the rent isn't making somebody else rich. The mortgage is your own future money for later. And you know that, okay, the big deal was the down payment. The extra YouTube money got you to the down payment that you weren't going to do just working a 9-to-5. So use the YouTube side hustle. You get into that mortgage, you get the down payment. You probably now are paying less every month than you were paying in rent, and you're going to own it one day. God forbid, you know, you're going to own it one day, God willing. And you now go, okay, so now that I'm in this situation, you sit there and you figure out whether or not you can scale YouTube. And if you can't, instead of another side hustle that takes up time, you start figuring out how to productize, how to make some kind of passive income that's not reliant on you hustling YouTube or working your 9-to-5 job. And you figure adding in another revenue stream now, because this is the secret. It's getting the multiple revenue streams. and it's starting to separate those revenue streams from how much time you have to spend to make the money. Also, maybe at that point, your YouTube channel has a back catalog of content that's making you money even when you're not uploading. So like you're getting momentum. Now, if you're getting to a place to where it feels like, okay, the job is taking up too much time and too much energy, instead of going full time on YouTube, I would consider leaving the 9-to-5 job, taking on a part-time job or taking on gig work, flexible schedule, doing more online business and more YouTube, but now being in more control of your time and energy because you aren't locked into 40 or 50 hours a week for an employer, but you still have some other income. Because the problem that I see is people go from, oh, I have one income source with a job. Oh, I built two income sources because now I have YouTube. And then they think the answer is, oh, let me go down to one income source called YouTube. You literally just eliminated the whole extra income thing and then went to a less stable version of income to rely on. So my issue with people is I want people to build multiple income streams and not just reduce themselves down to trading one income stream for another. I want it to be that you always are maintaining multiple income streams and that you're expanding multiple income streams. And ideally, they will become less dependent on your time and less connected to your time as life goes on. And that would be the idea. So Patrick Sterling, thank you. So happy to finally give back a little bit after tremendous value I received from your work. I'm going to have a great 2021 on YouTube. I really hope so, Patrick. Good going. Thank you. So yeah. So again, I'll talk about this all in the YouTube business stream. We might do that next week or the week after. But I think that that will be really helpful to the far majority of you, because I think that a lot of people just don't have realistic expectations and understanding of YouTube, which is why I try to be as transparent as possible. And again, I also think there's not as much of the prevailing perspective of YouTube comes from people under 25, not over 35. And that's fine. And that's the majority of people who want to do YouTube. I just think that there is a benefit to a perspective of someone over 30 that might have lived a little bit more life, even if someone's wildly successful in their 20s. I think that having the perspective of somebody, who's lived through their 30s, might be the more realistic, approach. I think this might be the last question I answer. Roberto, I got a video that went viral on my channel, 20K views when I had a normal 100 to 200. Yeah, I'd say that's viral for you. Do you have any advice on how to retain as much of this audience as possible? You have to really understand what they came there for, Andrew. You're doing stock trading and investing. If this was like a stimulus video, then there's a lifespan to how well that's going to work out. But whatever the emotional and psychological reasons for people engaging with that video, you have to address that going forward in one form or another. Even beyond the topic that drew them in, the psychology that drew them in is what I would try to figure out. Do I think conspiracy channels or truther channels? I think that those, regardless of how you feel about one way or another, I'm a businessman, so I would not make those channels, because I just don't think, I don't think the monetization on conspiracy channels is good. From people I know personally, it's not really good money, to be honest with you. It's not that much money. And then the risk of it going away because of policy changes or because somebody else in your niche screws up. Like, I don't want to be in a niche where I can be the collateral damage of some knucklehead in my niche that can't help themselves. So it may be what you're into and it may be fun. And I'm not saying that there's not an audience for it and everything like that. But if your goal was to be a career content creator, I know it doesn't sound fun, but I would avoid all controversial topics and all controversies altogether. I would run a good, tight, clean, conservative business. And by doing that, it may not be as sexy or it may not have a lot of virality to it. but I like good, clean, stable, reliable, conservative niches that don't have controversy. And I think that if you want to be a career content creator, it's the best way to go for the long term. If you want to do it as a hobby, though, if you want to do it as a hobby, then go for it, you know. But I'm just very business minded myself. I always have been, even as a kid. But I'm also risk adverse because of the trauma of growing up without money. You know, the trauma of growing up without money, and, you know, being the oldest of 4 kids, child of divorce, all those things make me very risk adverse in a way where if I took more risk, I might be more successful, but it's like psychologically, I can't really do it psychologically. So I play safer than I might need to be, because I could back it up, but you just can't. Like, maybe with therapy, I'll become less risk adverse with more therapy. But like, I just, you know, when you grow up like that, you know, as smart as you are, as savvy as you are, as successful as you are, no matter what you do, you'll probably always hold back a little bit, and still hold on to just a few broke habits, if that makes sense. When you grow up like that, there's no amount of success to where you can get rid of all your broke habits, not without a lot of therapy, So that's my thing. I should put top 5 videos on what to buy with your stimulus tech. Yeah. Like stimulus stuff is crushing it right now. I swear. Stimulus content is crushing it. Like one of my clients, we crafted a strategy for him, and he went like all in on stimulus stuff and everything like that. Geez, I remember he started the year with like 4,000 subscribers. He's about to get a silver play button. He's killing it. He's about to get a silver play button. He's a real estate guy. I told him that he should do like the content that would matter to somebody like him, because he's a survivor of the previous recession. He built his wealth off of being a survivor of the previous recession. And now he's bringing that insight to his YouTube audience and helping them. And he's explaining the stimulus stuff to them. He's explaining real estate opportunities to them. He's helping them get their stuff together. It's really inspiring to see. His name's Steve Ram. You guys can find him if you want. Like he started with, like, when we started working together, he had like, I think 2,000 or 4,000 subscribers. He wasn't getting a lot of views. His biggest thing was a reaction video he did to Grant Cardone and The Wolf of Wall Street. And I told him, look, you survived the last recession, Steve. Like, you need to help everybody else get through this time right now and make the best educational content around money and finance that's going to help somebody in this recession, in this economic crisis, in this job crisis. And he went all in on that idea and killed it because he delivered value for an audience, and he had an authentic story of how he got his own life together. You know, he got his own life together from nothing, like for real, from nothing. And he was able to make a real difference in the lives of the people that he impacted through his content. And yes, he rode the back of a trend, but it wouldn't have worked if he wasn't delivering real value to people. They wouldn't have kept coming back. And I think that's important. And I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of what he accomplished in doing that. And I don't take credit. He did the hard work. I helped give him guidance and direction, but I think it's the same thing I could tell any of you, is to take whatever your life experience was. I mean, that's what I've done. That's all I've done with this channel. This channel, if you're a Star Wars fan, this channel is just a living holocron. This channel is just a Star Wars holocron of all of my knowledge. It's like, what did the Emperor say? It's like, and it can use my knowledge, I beg of you. You're like, I mean, that's all I do. All I do is, like, here's all of my knowledge. Here's everything I know. Learn the ways of the Force. Do what you will. Like, that's all I do. Is I'm a living Star Wars holocron. That's it. Like, this YouTube channel is my, you know, my living holocron, my legacy of all of my knowledge comprised into a single resource, right? So that's what I do, and I encourage other people. Now, if you're an entertainer, there's a different way to go about that, but it's the same philosophy of how do you take whatever you experienced in life and turn it into something useful. even if what you experienced in life was pain, you can take it and turn it into a purpose, and you can make it something productive and very profitable if you have a mind to. So someone asked, how can we become a client? Is it through the academy? Yeah, if you go to awesomecreatoracademy.com, the information is there to become part of the coaching program or to do one-on-one coaching with me. The information's at awesomecreatoracademy.com. It's linked down below. But if you're not in a position to do any of that, this free content, it's a lot to hunt through, but it's there. We're able to get more detailed and specific with people's individual stuff in the academy and in one-on-one coaching, but the foundational principles are here. And that's why I'm trying to do more of these live streams, is I'm trying to show you guys processes for things. So yeah. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed all the thumbnail stuff, the business stuff on the back end. Still hundreds of you in the live stream, so I really do appreciate you. The last favor that I would ask, besides watching more videos on this YouTube channel and YouTube stuff after this, is real quick, if you could open up another tab on your computer, and if you can go to Zen Buster Music in search on YouTube and check out my lo-fi beats for you guys to relax to. Whenever you want to relax, I've got you. And when you want to hustle, I've got you. So I'm just asking you to listen to some of the music. Let me know if you like it and subscribe to that, because we're trying something different and I'm having fun with that. But I also worked hard on the animation side for that with my After Effects stuff. So I'm really curious about how that looks for you guys. But for YouTube stuff, for money stuff, for business stuff, come back to the channel or even watch after this. There's something on the channel for you. I guarantee it. You want inspiration? Watch my oldest videos and look at how terrible I am on camera, and you'll feel better about yourself. Anytime you want motivation, just watch my first videos and how bad I was. And like, you'll feel a lot better about whatever you're making. You'll feel so much better about what you're making if you just watch my worst videos of all time, which is my early videos. But the lo-fi beats over on Zen Buster Music, if you check out that YouTube channel, that is something I'm working on with my producer Frost, and like we're really satisfied with it. And when you guys want to relax, chill, go to sleep, we've got you with some lo-fi beats, and we're really enjoying that. So you can check that out. What brand is this beanie? I don't know, but if you go to kit.co/Roberto Blake, I'm gonna put all of my minimalist wardrobe stuff that I buy off Amazon, because that's how I do it, in a kit.co for you. So if you want to buy my minimalist wardrobe, I will put that over in kit.co after the stream. kit.co/Roberto Blake. So yeah, so stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, the only thing I'm really gonna ask you guys is, excuse me, watch more of the videos on this channel, come back to the live streams on Sundays, and again, just check out the music channel, see if you like it. Oh yeah, and throw a like on this live stream if you haven't already. If you throw a like on this live stream, or don't, but I'd appreciate it. And that's all I got for you. So thank you so much, everybody. Stay awesome. I do really appreciate it. And actually, one last thing, I guess before I go, I could drop a link to a video that I think will help a lot of you actually with the YouTube stuff, because I know a lot of you are curious about YouTube and YouTube money. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to drop a link before I go, and you can watch this video immediately on the 5 most profitable niches on YouTube and how YouTube money works. So I'm dropping that link right now in the comments of this video. And so you should see that in the chat and everywhere else. I'm also going to add it to the description of this video and say, watch this next. Watch this video next. There we go. Saved. And so that's there. And so if you want to watch something that will help you understand making money on YouTube a little bit more, that will help you. Boom. So there you go. thanks everybody for an amazing stream. You're awesome. Hope you guys have a good night. Oh yeah, one other thing I guess I can drop as long as I have you here is since to make it easier for you than searching for the music channel, I guess I can literally just link to it. Or I'll actually link to it and then I'll link to like one of the songs for you to check out. Just do that. Here you go. So you can check that out if you want. Yep. Periscope viewers, sorry, it filters anything that looks like spam, so don't worry about it. But yep, that's it. Stay awesome. I will catch you guys probably with a video tomorrow, believe it or not. Probably have a new video out tomorrow. Live stream next week for you guys, and probably more lo-fi beats throughout the week. So stay awesome. I'll catch you next time. Take care.